Chapter 818, A Battle of Wits. Chapter 818, A Battle of Wits, _ Brothers Ka-tua and Ka-fu gawked. They were baffled. The atmosphere in the shop suddenly quieted down. Why do you have it? Ka-tua was astounded. It took some time for him to find his voice. Doesn't Feng Rao have it? It's a long story. Shi beamed a faint smile. This is not a good time to talk. Feng Rao knows that I'm here. I'm afraid that Feng Ku, her father, is on the move. We should leave first. The star map was a crucial matter. Most experts with a background force would try to steal it. They would even to risk their lives to take possession of it. It was unknown whether or not Feng Ku would come here personally to kill him. Either way, they had to find a safer place to talk. Yes, that is a good plan, Ka-tua said frankly. We should leave the Heaven Punishment City. This city is managed by Feng Ku, Russell, Barrett, and Jianong. If they want to kill someone, they have many ways to do so. Ka-fu also knew the situation wasn't good. He stopped lingering and said, Go, you guys go first. I will arrange the meeting place and follow you. When Ka-tua was about to start leaving, a gleam of fright sparkled in his eyes. He shouted, Someone is coming. Original God Realm. So quick. Ka-fu was scared. Is it Feng Ku? 80% or 90% chance that it's him. Damn it. It was too unreliable. I knew it. Shi face darkened. He hesitated for a while then said through his gritted teeth, He tricked me like this. I won't let him get what he wants. A power that could distort space burst out from his body. Space slits appeared thickly around him. Radiant five-colored light shot out beautifully from the slits. The fantasy sky ring flashed. The star map created from undying wood flew out. Under his power, it shot out and disappeared into a space slit. A massive flow of energy gushed out from his body. A beam of soul consciousness had cut off the connection with the soul altar and attached to the undying wood, disappearing into the space slit. Hesitating for a while, Shi slid the blood vein ring off his finger. As his thoughts flickered, he threw the blood vein ring into the space slit. Tearing a space slit and putting the items in there was an advantage that a warrior cultivating space power had. However, Shi was still reluctant in using this ability. The power of the second sky of King God Realm wasn't enough to help him maintain the soul consciousness for long periods of time. Thus, it was difficult to keep the connection with the items he had put in the space slit for a long time. In the disorderly and chaotic space basin, space energy was wildly uncontrollable. Once the soul consciousness fell into the space basin, it would be weakened and vanish. This was especially true if a beam of his soul consciousness wanted to stick to the undying wood. This made him spend more energy to hold the connection. The world-extinguishing thunder flame wasn't a real entity. It was just a fragmented soul. Maintaining the soul consciousness connection with it was easier. Also, the energy required was 1,000 times less. Because of this reason, the remnants of the world-extinguishing thunder flame could be found easily after Shi had expelled it. However, forming a connection between the soul consciousness and a real entity was difficult when putting it into a space slit. When he wanted to pull it out, he needed to use a force that was 100 times stronger. Swoosh! The undying wood and the blood vein ring disappeared together into the slit. The fine, thick slits vanished shortly after. Shi face gloomily darkened. He said quietly, Whoever is coming, he is coming for the star map. There is no need to be tense. As long as I have the star map, they won't dare kill me. Ka-tua and Ka-fu nodded quietly, pulling themselves together. Crack, crack. The ground of the shop under their feet caved in. A block of rock turned into dust and scattered. A brawny man emerged from the ground, but he had no dust on his body. Russell. Ka-tua's face changed. He snorted, his voice husky. Why are you here? Russell, the leader of the Bloody Chief Skull Pirate, grinned bizarrely. One of his hands pushed on the stone wall of the shop. Yellow soil dust started to gather on the wall. From Russell's palm, it expanded everywhere at a speed that naked eyes couldn't observe. That yellow soil dust covered the shop's walls thickly. Another yellow wall blocked the main door of the shop. No beam of light was allowed to creep in. Shortly after, The entire shop sank into darkness under Russell's power. However, 7 colored rocks and crystals on the shelves inside the shop were glowing with immense halos, so the shop wasn't too dark. After Russell was done using the yellow soil dust, he calmed down and waved his hands deliberately. A white jade chair fell behind him. He lazily sat down, smiling brightly. He looked at Shiryen, and his pose was casual as he talked to Shiryen. "Give it to me." "Give what? What is it?" Shiryen frowned, asking as if he didn't know anything. "Don't pretend to be a fool," Russell laughed evilly. "Hand over the star map. I will leave immediately. I won't trouble you guys anymore." "Russell, don't go so far." Ka-Tuo shouted, "No battle is allowed in the Heaven Punishment City. You guys set this rule and now you want to violate it." "Rule?" Russell grinned fiendishly. "I make rules. I'm not bound by it." "Don't babble. Ka-Tuo, you know me. This place is restrained now. None of you can escape. Give me the star map and I will leave. We will pretend as if nothing has happened." Russell had the first sky of Original God Realm, 1 level higher than Ka-Tuo, the strongest one among Shiryen's group. Once the battle started, Ka-Tuo, Shiryen, and Ka-Fu wouldn't be able to escape alive. Shiryen didn't dare take action and decided to try negotiating. "The star map isn't in my hand." Shiryen knitted his eyebrows tightly together. His face was gloomy as he said faintly, "Feng Rao has it." As soon as she arrived in the Heaven Punishment City, she went to the Blue Demon. "If you want the star map, you should find her. I have nothing in my hands. If you don't believe me, you can check it." Crack! A fantasy sky ring on his finger cracked open. Items stored inside the ring appeared. They could see the original universe return cauldron, sky-breaking shuttle, thunder witch wood, 5 elements crystal marrow, and some treasures he had refined. All lined up in front of Shiryen, spinning. When the fantasy sky ring exploded, things it stored would be exposed. Ka-Tuo and Ka-Fu looked at him with strange eyes. Russell was also amazed. He frowned, but his eyes didn't leave the treasures and strange cultivating materials, which were floating and revolving. "No, not this." "No." Russell's face darkened. His eyes flashed as he was using soul consciousness to explore those items. Then, he shouted, "None of them." His target was the star map. The other things were not what he wanted. As he didn't see the star map there, Russell clenched his jaw, grimacing. "I have only 1 fantasy sky ring. It is broken. All the materials are in front of you. You can check them as you please." Shiryen was calm and natural. "I don't have another storage. With your cultivation vase, I believe you can see that I don't keep undying wood. His realm isn't high enough. Going with Feng Rao at the peak of King God Realm, you think he would have had the chance to keep the star map?" Ka-Tuo was secretly relieved. He followed Shiryen and said, "Of course Feng Rao keeps the star map. I heard that Sir Feng Ko isn't in the Heaven Punishment City now. Only Feng Shao guards the Blue Demon's base. If you go fast enough, you can take the star map before Feng Ko gets back, sir." Russell's eyes sparkled. He seemed to buy it, grinning fiendishly. Ka-Tuo suddenly discolored, trying to urge the chaotic energy in his body. He couldn't help but shout, "Russell, if you think you can kill us to stop us from spreading the news, it won't be that easy. Sir Feng Ko must be on his way now. If you want to waste your time killing us, do it. But I'm afraid you will miss the chance to grab the star map." Russell snorted, raking his cold, brutal eyes around Shiryen, Ka-Tuo, and Ka-Fu. Then, he said indifferently, "You're lucky this time." Swoosh! The ground cracked into a passage. Russell turned into an earthy yellow smoke and disappeared into the passage. Layers of confining force covering the shop vanished, turning into earth yellow smoke that swarmed into that passage. Ka-Fu hurled his body onto the soft couch, wiping away the cold sweat beading his forehead. There was still fear in his eyes. Before Russell left, he definitely intended to kill them all to stop them from telling his story. If Ka-Tuo hadn't said anything, they wouldn't have been able to dodge this fatal fate. *CK him. Ka-Tuo gritted his teeth, his face ferocious. "Wait until your grandfather reaches the Original God Realm. I will take all of it back. That bastard Russell wanted to kill us. We're lucky that my brother has stashed all the items into the spacelet. Otherwise, none of us would have survived. We won't keep him deceived him for long. We should go and find a safer place first. Yan could feel a shiver running down his spine. Now he felt like a lucky survivor after a fatal incident. Russell was at the first sky of original God realm. He only stood there, but he could have given Yan an endless suppression. If this man wanted to kill them, even if Yan joined hands with Ka-Tua and Ka-Fu, they would have still likely been killed. If he hadn't been prepared and broken his fantasy sky ring to show that he didn't keep the star map, or if Ka-Tua hadn't covered them, Russell would have slaughtered them all in the shop. After that, he could reap all the rewards of the battle. Then, no one would have found them. Here, take a new fantasy sky ring. After you're done, we will leave immediately. Ka-Fu slipped a ring off his finger, throwing it to Yan. Yan caught it and connected it with his soul consciousness. The floating items fell into the new ring. The new fantasy sky ring Ka-Fu gave him was much larger than his original one. It had many double shelves to categorize his items. This ring looked magical, and it was surely not cheap. Thank you, Yan nodded, didn't like saying polite words. He turned to Ka-Tua. Are you ready? Yep. Follow me. We should stay away from the furious wave first. We can talk later. Ka-Tua turned around and walked to the back of the shop. Yan followed him right away. Chapter 819. Overestimated? Chapter 819. Overestimated, _ Russell moved unceasingly towards Blue Demon's base. He didn't know that the others had fooled him. He did think that the star map was in Yan's hands. As he was afraid that Feng Ku would return earlier, he hadn't spent his efforts to kill Yan's group of 3. The star map was much more important than Yan's team in his eyes. However, while he was moving underground under the Blue Demon's base, he knew it was going to be bad. He got an instant rage. Feng Ku was there. He could feel the massive life magnetic field of Feng Ku on the big rock above his head. Russell, why are you here? Feng Ku's deep voice was sent to him from above his head. A flow of energy that could tear the earth shot directly to the ground. Russell knew that he couldn't hide his whereabouts anymore. He hesitated for a while, then left, emerging from the ground. Feng Ku, Feng Rao, and Feng Xiao were sitting in a spacious hall together with dozens of experts of the Blue Demon. Most of them were at the second sky or third sky of King God Realm. The power of this force was formidable indeed. Feng Ku had traveled at his fastest speed to meet his daughter. Before he could have time to talk with his daughter, he found the special moving life magnetic field of Russell. He immediately reacted, using his force to make the man come out from the ground. Feng Ku's thin face darkened. He snorted. What do you want? Why are you moving stealthily like that? I heard that my niece is back. I hurried here to say congratulations. Feng Ji, you don't welcome me. Russell put on a calm face, smiling until his eyes squinted. I met my niece in that abandoned mineral star. I wanted to take her home safely, but a boy had captured her. He used the power of the empty fantasy crystal to run away. I couldn't help her, so I felt really annoyed. Now I know she's back safely. I wanted to pay a visit to see her. Russell's lies weren't much greater than his singing. This man was really thick-skinned. Both Feng Ku and Feng Rao knew that none of his words were true. They looked at him with cold looks. It's good that my niece is all right. I just wanted to check on her. Yeah, now I can ease my mind. Since Russell recognized that no one welcomed him, he said something and prepared to leave. Wait a minute, Feng Ku shouted. What? Russell was surprised. Feng Ji, you want me to join your family's lunch? Haha, as you and your daughter have just reunited, you should have many things to say to each other, I assume. It is not convenient that I stay. If you're here, we can talk. Feng Ku squinted, frowning. I've invited all the big leaders to talk about the star map. My daughter is back. We can discuss this. Your power isn't bad. You're one of the strongest forces that we have. Of course, we can just keep you out of this. Haha, Feng Ji. You're valiant and generous if you want to share the star map. All right. I'm in. Russell agreed. He came here for the star map. Of course, he wouldn't let this chance slip away. Any matter behind the star map is very important. My force can't handle it alone, Feng Ke snorted. Russell, your bloody chief skull isn't bad, but don't foolishly dream about keeping the star map for yourself. I got the precise news saying that strongest warriors of the three big forces are heading to the land of God punishment. They will come to our area shortly. The 9-star Chamber of Commerce will appear here, too. The Fan family will send someone, probably. Since we have common enemies, I hope you can see the general picture and not plan any conspiracy. Pausing for a while, Feng Ke continued slowly, for example, going to Kafus to rob the star map. I don't want to see that again. Russell discolored. He snorted but didn't say anything else. He jumped into the ground, leaving no message. He disappeared shortly. Father, how did you know he went to Kafus? Feng Rao was surprised. She couldn't help but ask. On my way to the Heaven Punishment City, I felt Russell moving. But you've mentioned that boy was going to find Kafu. Of course, I knew what he wanted, smiled Feng Ke. Would something unexpected happen to Shiryan? No, I have to go there and check. Feng Rao screamed hastily. Feng Ke and Feng Xiao were slightly shaken. They looked at her with odd faces. When Feng Rao left that year, she didn't have a good reputation in the land of God punishment. However, they knew Feng Rao was almost an uncontrollably wild girl. It has been so many years, and they had seen her teasing countless young men of the land of God punishment, but they had never seen her caring about any man. Today, as she thought about Shiryan possibly being in danger, she paid close attention and care for him. Something was strange here, indeed. You guys, why are you looking at me like that? Feng Rao was startled a little bit, blushing unnaturally, stopping. Feng Ke saw her eyes. He contemplated for a while then said, Don't worry. That kid should be all right. Otherwise, Russell wouldn't have hurried here. If he got the star map, he would have immediately left the land of God punishment. Caring disturbs a sound mind. Feng Rao was reminded of this. She bit her red lips and smiled. He fooled Russell. Haha. Little sister, tell me what kind of relationship is between you and that kid. Feng Xiao was surprised for a while. Eventually, he couldn't press down his curiosity. I can see that you care about him. What happened? Who is he? Is he an insider sent by the Dark Firmament Divine Nation? No relationship. We have just overcome many hardships together. We are close friends. Also, that man isn't ordinary at all. His potential is infinite. As he cultivates, he will eventually become one of the strongest warriors of the Dark Firmament Divine Nation, said Feng Rao solemnly. I haven't seen you highly appreciate a person like that. Is he really as excellent as you say? Asked Feng Ke with a serious visage. I reckon. Feng Rao's face was also serious. Although he is only the second sky of King God Realm cultivation base now, I believe that if he risks his life and fights me, I will not win. I will be the loser who will die. He will survive and live or sure. Hearing her, Feng Ke and Feng Xiao were shaken with fear. In the land of God punishment, Feng Rao was famous for her tough and tenacious competence with bizarre power Upanishad. Normally, warriors at the same realm weren't her rivals. And they were talking about Shiryan, a warrior at a level lower than her. Little sister, do you overestimate him because you like him? Feng Xiao shook his head and burst out in laughter. How can he do it? He defeated you with his lower realm? Funny, really funny. You shouldn't mistake it due to your personal feelings. Tell us honestly, how is his competence? Feng Ke frowned as he didn't believe her. He was always proud of his daughter. He didn't think that a warrior with a lower realm could trounce Feng Rao. Both the father and the son were skeptical and thought that Feng Rao had overestimated Shiryan because she liked him. This irritated Feng Rao, making her both embarrassed and angry. She said begrudgingly, You will see later. All right, I want to check him out. Feng Ke nodded. How about the other three? Do they need treatment? Father, that old jester isn't a nice man to talk to. The price to cure 3 people with the soul-sucking demonic flower won't be small. Feng Xiao reminded them. He seemed not to approve this idea. Little Rao, what do you say? Squinted Feng Ke. Cure them. Even if the price is big, can it be bigger than the star map? Feng Rao answered resolutely. Can we trust him? Asked Feng Ke. His men are in our hands. If he doesn't exchange the star map for them, what can he do then? Moreover, this place is the land of God punishment, our territory. Will he be able to rebel? Feng Rao smiled. Don't worry. I'm sure he will keep his word. All right, we will carry it out like that. Feng Ke pondered for a while, nodded, then turned to his son, Feng Shao. You bring those 3 to Jester. Satisfy his requirements. I'm on it. Land of God punishment, west side. The land was damaged and countless massive caves ran straight to the deep place underground. Each cavern that looked like the giant mouth of the beast had a spacious stone hall. Those stone halls were connected to each other and expanded wide and large. People could walk through them to reach the inside of the Heaven Punishment City. Inside a stone hall, which was protected with magical barriers, Shi Yan was giving a narration of how he got the star map to Ka Fu and Ka Tua. Also, he didn't conceal about the agreement he had with Feng Rao. The 2 brothers listened to him. After he was done, Ka Tua frowned and said with pain, "They're just 3 human body cauldrons. Are their lives worth the star map? Shi Yan, you've placed the value of your relationships with them too highly. It is not worth it. You see, how about we flee from the land of God punishment and use our own powers to explore the new star area?" Ka Tua became excited. His brutal eyes sparkled with dreams of desire. He spread his arms and mumbled, "A new star area, 10 life stars, countless mineral ores and crystals, peculiar spiritual herbs. If we can have them all, we don't need to worry about anything else for the rest of our lives. Brother, we can establish our own territory. One day, we would make that star area mighty and prosperous like the other 3 forces. How wonderful would that be? Don't be a daydreamer," Shi Yan snorted. "With our force, we can't have all of them." The information of the star map has been spread out. Many experts are keeping an eye on it. Even Feng Ku admits that he can't do it alone. He's contacting the big leaders of the other forces. Do you think you can gulf it yourself? Deji, wake up. This boy is right. Even if we find the new star area, we can't protect it. Exploiting the new star area requires a giant workforce and resources. Your force is definitely too weak, Ka Fu advised his brother without showing a bit of his sympathy. I was just thinking about it a little. You guys don't need to be that serious, okay? Ka Tua was a little bit embarrassed. He harumphed then said, I will send someone to the Heaven Punishment City. If Feng Ku asks, we will have someone to report back to us. I want to make sure my 3 friends are all right. After that, I will hand over the star map, Shi Yan nodded. The important thing is to make sure that my men are okay. We can deal with other matters later. Yeah, I got it. I won't mess with your business, Ka Tua continued. I still have some fame in the land of God punishment. I know what to do. Shi Yan pondered for a while and then said, I'm going to prepare. After a while, I will give you the other part of the inheritance. It will help you break through to the original God realm fast. Bloody Slaughterer Ka Tua's eyes brightened radiantly. He was so thrilled and surprised that he laughed nonstop. Chapter 820. The Ring Spirit's Instructions. Chapter 820. The Ring Spirit's Instructions, _ Shi Yan's left hand touched the void. A gloomy light sparkled from his fingertips. As his fingers moved, a space slit appeared like he was tearing a sheet of paper. Dazzling light shot out from the space slit. Shi Yan squinted. Fine cracks appeared in his eyes. The space around him distorted chaotically. His energy rolled torrentially in his veins, running directly to the left palm. It seeped through his finger, shooting to the space slit where lights were moving disorderly. His soul consciousness was visible like a beam of light, slowly searching in the slit, getting through several sandwich-like layers. The aura of the blood vein ring suddenly emerged in his god soul. His soul altar started to spin. Unpredictable, invisible light radiated from it. A pulling force connected to the blood vein ring as fast as lightning. Swoosh! A ring flew out and fell into his palm. Shi Yan slid it on his finger. Shi Yan didn't hurry to retrieve his energy. His soul consciousness was still searching for a connection with the star map in the chaotic space basin. However, when he tried to pull the star map out of that space, it felt as heavy as 10,000 cattle. His soul struggled to pull it out. It wasn't as easy as pulling the blood vein ring. Shuryen paused, sensing quietly. He gradually pumped more of his soul energy, which then turned into invisible tentacles that entangled the star map. Pull! His soul energy was drained crazily. The space around him rippled like ocean waves rising beautifully. Each space wave had a space crack, which was then enlarged little by little. The chaotic flow of space inside was strangely turbulent, as if it wanted to gush out from there. Shuryen paled. His energy was draining fast. Shuryen felt exhausted, but he continued pulling, and he didn't dare to relax or get distracted. Ka Tua and his brother looked at him astoundingly. They shifted their looks from the space slits to Shuryen and discreetly released their soul consciousness. However, their soul consciousness felt like it was sinking into a swamp when it touched this disorderly space. No matter how hard they tried, they couldn't help. The brothers discolored. They didn't dare explore for any longer. They both retrieved their soul consciousness, took several deep breaths to steady themselves, and continued watching Shuryen from afar. Sweat beaded on Shuryen's forehead. The fine cracks were getting clearer too in his eyes. A beam of sharp space energy seeped out, running directly into the space slit. Roar! Shuryen shouted. His body radiated blinding light. He looked like a massive crystal illuminated by the sun, reflecting beams of light everywhere. A violent suction force shot out from his palm. The star map emerged little by little from the space slit as he slowly pulled it out. Phew! Shuryen opened his mouth to exhale. He wiped away the sweat on his forehead. Shuryen's body slid to the ground. He was exhausted. Although Ka Tua wanted to hurry, he felt something deep in his heart that told him to stay patient. Seeing that Shuryen exhausted like that, he didn't urge the young man, and instead just sat down next to him and waited. Taking out a divine crystal, Shuryen absorbed the energy from it. After a long time, he opened his eyes slowly, smiling feebly. We're lucky that nothing unexpected happened. Pulling out a star map did cost a lot of energy, right? Ka Tua was astounded. But you got the ring out pretty reasonably? I saw you spend no effort to pull the ring out. He wasn't the only one suspicious. Shuryen also didn't know how it happened. He felt like he was walking in a mist, blind from his surroundings. Both the star map and the blood vein ring were objects. However, retrieving the blood vein ring costed only a little bit of his soul energy. As soon as his soul consciousness connected to the ring, it immediately returned from the space basin. But the star map had cost him a lot. You fool. It's the secret treasure that is connected to my brother's life. They're interlinked. That's why he can take it back easily. Ka Tua thought he understood it better, rolling his eyes at his younger brother and explaining. Is it true? Kafu shook his head, not quite believing his brother. Don't talk, please. I need it to be quiet for a while, frowned Shuryen. The brothers shut their mouths immediately. As Shuryen's finger caressed the blood vein ring, his soul consciousness seeped into it. Within the left part of that man's inheritance, is there any problem with it? A spirit arose from the ring. There are 3 things you need to remember. I can tell you this only once. After I give you the inheritance, I will go dormant. I won't have enough energy to talk again for a long time. First of all, after I give you the inheritance, you should use your god soul to read the spell that urges the magic in your seal and take a beam of his original soul. Then, detain a beam of his original soul in your seal. After that, he will become an advisor. You will be able to control his life. Second, the next time you swallow the soul altar, don't enjoy the benefits alone. Divide the refined soul energy into beams and send me some to recover. Then, I will have more energy to talk to you more. And you have to take in more soul altars. It will be good for you, much more effective than simply making your god body stronger. I think that no warrior in the star area will know your secret. You don't need to worry that much. You have to try to refine your soul altar more and make it unbreakable. Last of all, gather the heaven flames and combine them as fast as you can. Before you break through to the original god realm, you have to use the heaven flame divine refining technique to refine the heaven flames. It will give you a big help when condensing the original soul. The original soul created by the heaven flames is much more intimidating than the original soul of the other original god realm warriors. It has so many more magical abilities. Remember, You have to gather all the heaven flames before you reach the peak of the king god realm. After the ring spirit advised him about these 3 things, it was about to complete the inheritance. Who are you? I know nothing about you or anything you just said. Can you explain in more detail? I am just a remnant of a soul. Most of my memories have been lost. I can only restore them little by little from the nothingness. At this moment in time, I can't give you more assistance. Please at least tell me what is my mission here. Get stronger. Unbelievably stronger. Break through and level up as quick as you can. This is your most important mission at this moment. All right, I can't waste more time. I will impart the spell to you. I have to condense the inheritance. My energy is limited. The ring spirit cut off communication. Soon, a flow of soul memories seeped into Shiryan's brain. The spell was hard to read. It seemed like the spell didn't have any real meaning. It was just an array of magical sounds. Shiryan tried to figure out what it said, but he couldn't understand the deep meaning behind those melodious sounds. He couldn't do anything except to try remembering the spell forcefully. At least, he must ensure that he wouldn't forget it or read it incorrectly. The blood vein ring on his finger radiated an immense halo as the ring spirit urged its energy to create the inheritance for Ka-Tua. Ka-Tua couldn't help but get more excited. He rubbed his hands, thrilled. He laughed contentedly and stupidly at the same time. When he received the inheritance from Shiryan last time, he immediately ran away and cultivated to amend his power Upanishad. After a long time, his power Upanishad had got back on the right track. He was now at the 3rd sky of King God Realm, and he was just 1 step away from the threshold. As long as he could get the last part of the power Upanishad inheritance, he believed that with a little time to digest it, he would easily enter the original God Realm. When that happened, he would become an expert in the land of God punishment, and he would become a hero who could stand shoulder by shoulder with Russell, Barrett, and Jian Nong. He could even make Russell pay for his mistakes. Only by having mighty power would he earn respect in the land of God punishment. He had been here for so many years, so Ka-Tua understood this. Diji, I have to congratulate you this time. Kafu was also excited. He laughed cheerfully. After this time, Diji, you will become an overlord of an area of the land of God punishment. I'm so thrilled. Haha, that crazy dog Russell. I will make him lose his face. Ka-Tua grinned, his eyes brutal and bloodthirsty. Boom. Rainbow light shot out everywhere from the blood vein ring. A huge energy tremor spread out from the ring. A flow of inheritance essence was shown in Shiryan's palm. It looked like a chaotic, hazy mist with extreme power at the core. Ka-Tua's body shivered. He calmed down. His hot eyes gazed at the inheritance essence, didn't even blink. Shiryan smiled. He used the vital energy of the dead and life power to tie the essence inheritance, pushing it towards Ka-Tua. While the essence inheritance disappeared into Ka-Tua's eyes, Ka-Tua was shaking from the impact. Chaotic energy gushed out from his body. The God domain activated automatically, dragging and sucking the debris and remnants of objects into outer space to create a distorted and chaotic magnetic field. Ka-Tua closed his eyes and sat down cross-legged. He held his breath and concentrated on learning the mysteries of the essence inheritance. He tried to fuse it with his God soul and make it become a part of his seal of Upanishad. At the same time, Shiryan sat down and watched every change that Ka-Tua went through. Ka-Tua was shivering. Ripples of distorted and chaotic energy expanded from him as if he was taking in the energy from the space debris and other trash to increase the intensity within his God body. Ka-Tua's soul altar appeared deep in his pupils. It shone gloriously as if it was made of crystal. It was a beautiful scene. Shiryan observed everything. Until he saw Ka-Tua's soul altar spun and the God's soul started to take in the essence inheritance, he also mumbled the hard-to-read spell that the ring spirit had imparted to him. The spell swayed in his sea of consciousness like lightning strikes that attacked his sea of consciousness. His sea of consciousness seethed violently while thunder exploded above his soul altar. Flows of his soul consciousness moved by the spell, swarming towards the magical mark in his God soul. While his sea of consciousness seethed with surging, massive waves, his God soul maintained steady like a mountain. The mark emerged on his forehead like a dark sun that absorbed flows of his soul consciousness. Shiryan continued to murmur the spell. A magical vibe connected to Ka-Tuo's soul altar. A beam of light shot from Shiryan's eyes straight into Ka-Tuo's eyes. A beam of Ka-Tuo's chaotic original soul was pulled by the light beam. It flew out and flashed before disappearing into the mark on the forehead of Shiryan's god soul. At that moment, the flow of Ka-Tuo's original soul became his puppet. It seemed like he could kill Ka-Tuo instantly with one thought. Shiryan could even eradicate the other's god soul as he pleased. Shiryan was scared of the cunning and wicked plan of the ring spirit. This trick to bind a servant was strangely cruel. Shiryan knew that from now on, Ka-Tuo would never escape his bind. He now held the man's life in his hand forever. When his mind flickered, he could have Ka-Tuo perish. Chapter 821, Conspiracy. Chapter 821, Conspiracy, _ Ka-Tuo was still trying his best to combine the essence inheritance. He didn't notice that Shiryan had taken control of his life. For the rest of his life, he would not be able to escape Shiryan's bind. Shiryan opened his eyes, smiling brightly while looking at Ka-Tuo. After a while, the energy waves on Ka-Tuo's body calmed down. He continued to steady his energy, putting back the soul altar into his body. Then, he opened his eyes. He was so happy that he almost went crazy. He couldn't press down his laughter. I am one step closer to entering the original God realm. When that happens, I can stand shoulder by shoulder with Russell, Barrett, and Jia, known to be the master of an area in the land of God punishment. Only warriors at the original God realm can control powerful forces in the pirates' organizations. They have more troops and more serious business deals. Because Bloody Slaughter Ka-Tuo had not reached the original God realm, he was far behind Russell and the other two despite the fact that he was famous. And of course, there was no need to mention Fomka. Anyway, once Ka-Tuo reaches the original God realm, he would have a share among the experts of the land of God punishment. Congratulations, Deji. Kafu smiled honestly. He was thrilled, and he thought about how bright the future will be. This pair of brothers had been struggling in the land of God punishment for many years to accumulate the power and strength they have today. However, when Russell came to the shop and released his power, they felt so small and insignificant that they couldn't muster the courage to use their powers to resist. At his original God realm, Russell had an intimidating, oppressing power. If he wanted to kill them, no one would have gotten out of that shop alive. If Ka-Tuo had had the original God realm cultivation base, Russell would never have dared to swagger in like that. He wouldn't have thought of killing them. All of this was because of the limit of their realms and cultivation bases. How do you feel? Is everything all right? Asked Shiryan, a little bit uneasy. Shiryan didn't know whether Ka-Tuo could sense his small trick or not. He was afraid that if Ka-Tuo knew it, he would trouble him hard. This is amazing. It's so wonderful. I feel so good. Ha ha ha. Ka-Tuo laughed crazily and he felt so good. He didn't notice that a flow of his original soul was stolen. He had no idea that he lost control of his own life. Haha, that is good. Now we just need to wait until we got the news from the Heaven Punishment City. We will proceed with our plan afterward. Shiryan was nonchalant as he could relax now. He closed his eyes, his mouth hanging a faint smile. This place is the Heaven Punishment City, said Karthu. He was wearing a long snow-white garment accompanied with a piece of a silver mask that covered half of his left face. He smiled and explained, the Heaven Punishment City isn't strict. Everyone can get in. I've been here several times. As long as you conceal your power, no one would recognize you. The Heaven Punishment City is the biggest market of the entire Raging Flames Star area. You can find secret treasures, crystals, ores, pellets, medicines, and so much more. I will give you a tour. Ziyao's graceful body with attractive curves had been reduced slightly as her charming face was covered in a skin tone mask. However, warriors traveling to and fro in the wide streets of the Heaven Punishment City showed their lustful faces as they saw her. Their hot eyes lingered on her stunning body. Her exquisite and graceful curves were enough to get the attention of these men. Her unusually sloppy appearance only hid her beauty a little bit. Yalin, Taimu, and Aogera were also disguised, and they walked behind Karthu and Ziyao like an entourage. They were watching the shops everywhere with great curiosity. They found so many missing treasures of the Raging Flame Star area in the shops here. Also, they saw countless strange cultivating materials that the Divine Nation didn't have. They were exhibited and sold publicly here as if these items were nothing special. This is such a strange place. Ziyao observed for a while before complimenting. No wonder why people tell each other to visit the Heaven Punishment City when they need cultivating materials. They would have a great harvest here. I didn't believe it, but now I understand. The items in the Heaven Punishment City have more variety and are more precious than the items in the 9-star Chamber of Commercial. Karthu smiled. It is obvious that the Heaven Punishment City is unique. Pirates from all corners of the star area gather here. I heard that. Many pirates have found bizarre and rare mineral stars on the edge of our star area. The 9-star Chamber of Commercial doesn't have this competence. We should get to our destination first. I wonder if he's there. Ziyao's beautiful eyes were radiant when she parted her lips. Karthu nodded and said, "Follow me." After 1 hour, this group arrived in front of Kafu's shop. They stopped by the door and looked in the shop. No one was inside. The door of the shop was closed. There was no commotion of warriors inside. However, many people were watching over this place discreetly. Karthu frowned, but he didn't change his visage. He just took Ziyao's team and left. When they reached a quiet cross, he said, "That kid isn't here. Around 100 scouts are hiding around that shop. Something just happened, I assume. We should wait for a while. You guys go find a place to rest first. I'm going to ask for some information." Except for Karthu, this was the first time Ziyao and the others had visited the Heaven Punishment City. Since they weren't familiar with the environment, they just followed his orders. Soon, Karthu took Ziyao and the others to Sa Fe's training yard. Karthu let Yalin, Taimu, and Aogera find a resting place first. He brought Ziyao to see Sa Fe. Sir Karthu, Sa Fe respectfully kneeled down to greet him. He seemed to be very excited. Anything new from Kafu? Why did he close? Karthu signaled for him to get up and asked. Seems like Master Russell had visited the shop. I've sent my men to scout. They reported that Master Russell had used his power to restrain that shop. But it wasn't for a long time. Ka Tua and the others had disappeared from the Heaven Punishment City discreetly. No one knows where they were hiding. No one has found them yet, reported Sa Fe. Karthu frowned, wishing he had more details. Then, he advised Sa Fe to keep an eye on the commotion in the city. He ordered him that once he spotted something strange, he must report immediately. Several days later, Bai Tian, Hegemon of the Underworld League, took Bai Ro and some other warriors in disguise to the Heaven Punishment City. They found a manor to stay at and arranged people to search for information. 2 days later, Fan Tian of the 9-star Chamber of Commercial wore a mask and entered the Heaven Punishment City together with his warriors from outside the land of God Punishment. A corner in the Heaven Punishment City. Inside a shop with the alchemist symbol on the door, Alchemist Jester was urging flames from his fingers, his face ashen. His subtle flames then flew towards the Sea of Consciousness of Bao Ao, Jiaji, and Bo Rua. 3 pellets as big as longans exploded directly in their Sea of Consciousness. A fresh and gentle aroma diffused from the pellet, turning into a pure energy entering their Sea of Consciousness. Jester's forehead was covered in sweat. His face looked solemn as he used the soul consciousness to cut the connection between the soul-sucking demonic flowers and the victim's god soul. After a long period, Jester wiped his sweat. The 5 fingers on his left hand shot flows of blue flame, engulfing the 3 soul-sucking demonic flowers and burning them. Slowly, the demonic flowers turned into ashes. The bony bodies of Bao Ao and the 2 others were exposed after the demonic flowers vanished. Jester quickly ingested pellets. He closed his eyes to steady his breath. He looked very tired. Feng Xiao, Feng Rao, and 5/3 Sky of King God Realm warriors were sitting down and having green tea in a corner of the shop. They had been gazing at the alchemist for the whole process. Crack, crack, crack. Clear cracking sounds echoed from the bodies of Jieji, Bo Rua, and Baoeo. Although they were pale, their eyes sparkled brightly. They were so relieved. Finally, the soul-sucking demonic flower that had bound them for a long time had been uprooted, leaving no trace. Without that wicked pressure, the three of them felt even their bores relaxed. Feng Rao and Feng Xiao exchanged looks. They stood up and smiled and walked towards that area. Thank you, Miss Feng Rao. Baoeo's team bent their bodies slightly, thanking her sincerely. No need to thank me. If you are truly grateful, say thanks to Shi Yan. Without his promise, I would never have spent so much for you guys. Haha. You were lucky to have befriended that kid. Honestly, I admire you guys, said Feng Rao seriously. Miss Feng Rao, you don't need to admire us. I think that if you got into trouble, that kid will save you at any cost, Baoeo chuckled. I don't think he will be that generous for me. Feng Rao shook her head and smiled. Only you guys who came here with him will receive his treats. I think that the others will never receive such kindness from him. Baoeo's team looked at each other and smiled. They felt lucky that they didn't have any grudge against Shi Yan when they were in the Grace mainland. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to stay alive. Jester, the payment I agreed to give you will be submitted as scheduled. We won't mistreat you. Feng Xiao expressed assurance to the alchemist, who was adjusting his energy. Jester was still exhausted. He suddenly opened his dull eyes and said, Let me join your operation to search for the star map. I can give you 50% discount. You also know about the star map? Feng Rao was surprised. Famous leaders all received the information from your father. How could I not know about it? Jester was indifferent. That is why I agreed to help you save these three. It was because of the star map. Now that they are cured, we can negotiate about the real deal. The new star area should have a lot of special herbs and florists, which none of you are familiar with. If I join you guys, it'll be better for both parties. Otherwise, those spiritual plants and herbs die soon. Feng Rao and Feng Xiao exchanged looks, frowning. I know that you can't decide this right now. After you get back, you can tell your father about my deal. I think that with his wisdom and knowledge, he will know that bringing me will be an advantage. Jester closed his eyes, waving his hand. Off you go. Feng Xiao nodded, talking in a low tone. I will send your offer to my father. Let's go. Feng Rao nodded to Baoeo, Jieji, and Bo Rua. They left the alchemist's shop together with their guards. Waiting until Feng Zhao's team had left, Jester opened his eyes after a while. He took out a sound stone, his eyes bright and respectful. He kneeled down and sent the message. Master, I am sure that Feng Ke has the star map. Chapter 822. A single blade attends a banquet. Chapter 822. A single blade attends a banquet. A secret cavern in the land of God punishment. Ka Tua sat cross-legged, his face calm. Suddenly, he felt something and he took out a sound stone from his sleeve. Ka Tua frowned and checked the stone. The sound wave that came from the sound stone echoed directly in Ka Tuo's sea of consciousness. His eyes brightened up, smiling. Brother, Feng Ke has saved your people. Shi Yan cheered up, Are you sure? Yes, I'm sure, Ka Tua nodded. My people saw those three. The soul-sucking demonic flowers were gone. They've recovered. I think they are slowly restoring their power. Nothing bad has happened. Have them bring my people here, advised Shi Yan. Okay. Ka Tua stroked the sound stone, sending his message. What should we do now? Asked Ka Fu. Shi Yan got up, contemplating. I agreed with Feng Rao that after they healed those three, I would give her the star map. It seems like I have to go to the Heaven Punishment City this time to solve this. Brother, will it be okay going to the Heaven Punishment City now? Ka Tua was a little bit worried. They saved my people. I'm coming to hand over the star map. What danger could there be? Shi Yan smiled, talking nonchalantly. Their objective is my star map. They won't cause more trouble. Brother, you shouldn't negotiate a life star. You better not. A life star is so precious. It is not guaranteed that Feng Ke will give you one. If you provoke him, he may punish you. Ka Tua hesitated for a while before reminding Shi Yan. Right, I understand. Once the other three come here, you guys arrange for them to leave the land of God punishment. Yan took a deep breath then continued, I'm going now. Contact me if anything happens. Okay. Yan emerged to the stone passage of the underground cavern. He navigated which direction to go and then left. 15 minutes after he left, Kafu released his soul consciousness to sense. Then, his face darkened. He asked Deji, why didn't you take the star map? With the star map, we can bargain with any force. You've received the essence inheritance. That kid is no use to you now. Did you really consider him your senior? In our land of God punishment, benefits go first. Everything else is just bullshit. After he found out that Yan got the map, Kafu signaled Ka Tua many times to rob it directly. He had soon recognized that Yan had only the second sky of King God realm, the same realm as him. At the same time, Bloody Slaughter Ka Tua was at the peak of King God realm. After he had received the essence inheritance, he had stepped 1 foot closer to reaching the original God realm. Kafu thought that once his brother joined hands to rob the star map from Yan, it would have been effortless. When they got the star map, they would have been able to escape the land of God punishment and hide in their lair. While waiting for Ka Tua to break into the original God realm, they could have explored the star map or exchange it for something just as good. These two options were much better than following Yan. Bloody Slaughter Ka Tua contemplated for a while then said weakly, do you know what realm he had the first time I met him? What realm? Kafu was surprised. The second sky of true God realm. Ka Tua took a deep breath. It took just 7 years. 7 years. He's reached the King God realm and even the second sky of King God realm. Can you believe it? Kafu discolored in fright. He couldn't help but shout, how could this be? Bloody Slaughter Ka Tua smiled miserably, shaking his head. It's okay if you don't believe me. I've seen it with my own eyes, but I can't believe it's true. He spent 7 years to cross a major realm, from the second sky of true God realm to the second sky of King God realm. Have you ever heard of any talent like him in our Raging Flame Star area? Never. Kafu's voice trembled, his eyes showing deep fear. That year in the solar star exploding fragment field, he had only the true God realm cultivation base. However, his performance was comparable to the King God realm. Ka Tua recalled his painful memories. Actually, I was fluttered. Of course, he had utilized the special condition of the solar star exploding fragment field. Anyhow, I couldn't kill him. And today, he's reached the second sky of King God realm. I can sense that his aura is more than 5 times stronger than yours. Kafu was shaken. He looked dumbstruck. I'm sure that if we had attacked him, not only would we have had gotten nothing, but we would have also lost the chance to be on his side. Ka Tua looked at his brother deep in the eyes. His real power isn't less than mine. Although I'm combative and blunt, I'm not stupid. Kafu didn't say anything else. Having a good relationship with him is better than being his enemies. If I were sure that I could smash him, would I be so patient to wait until this moment and call him brother for so long? Bloody Slaughter Ka Tua forced a smile and shook his head. I can't see myself beating him. I can't. If he has enough time to cultivate, he will be the brightest star in the Raging Flame Star area. His light can even subdue the greatest like Du Tianji and Fan Tian. If I don't seize this chance in having a good relationship with him, will I be any different from an idiot? Kafu was surprised. After a long time, he nodded and sighed. Deji, I was wrong. My vision was narrow. Cooperate with him. No matter what he does, we have to support him wholeheartedly. He will change our destiny. I believe in him. Bloody Slaughter Ka Tua said loud and clear. Kafu's eyes brightened. Dash. Blue Demon Pirates Base, Heaven Punishment City. Feng Rao was sitting neatly on her high platform, waiting for something, her eyes gloomy. Ka Tua's troops had taken the other 3 away for a long time. If Ka Tua was still in the land of God punishment, he should have taken action by now. Why is that kid not come here yet? Feng Xiao was worried and he walked back and forth impatiently. Little sister, are you sure that kid was not just joking with you? Feng Rao shook her head, smiling reluctantly. I don't think so. He knows that nothing good would happen by standing against us in the land of God punishment. Moreover, with his power, even if he has the star map, he can't do anything alone. Is it possible that Ka-Tua took the star map? Feng-ku squinted and furrowed his brows. Ka-Tua has always been infamous. If he knew about the star map, he would have taken action. I understand him well. For his welfare, he won't care about anything else. It is possible, Feng Xiao nodded, jabbering. Should we send troops to clean up Ka-Tua's base? Impossible, Ka-Tua isn't an idiot. Feng-ku shook his head. Then what should we do? Just wait like this? Wait for that kid to turn himself in? It doesn't sound like a good plan. Feng Xiao scratched his head thinking about this tricky problem. If we don't get the star map, we will lose our face this time. We have invited leaders of the greatest forces everywhere to gather in the land of God punishment. And now we're going to tell them that we got wrong information. They will ridicule us for sure. Even if Ka-Tua has different plans, it won't work. Feng Rao was calm. Ka-Tua is at the third sky of King God Realm and his brother is at the second sky of King God Realm. Even if they join hands, they won't be able to capture Shuryen. Sister, did he enchant you? He's just a warrior at the second sky of King God Realm. How could he defeat those brothers? What kind of joke is that? Feng Xiao was enraged. You let your emotions control you. I think your thought process has gone astray. You can't see the real situation. Feng-ku didn't believe what his daughter said. It didn't sound real that he could defeat those brothers. Little Rao, you overthought this. Feng Rao was so vexed. As she had fought Shuryen, she knew how tough he was. Nevertheless, Bloody Slaughterer Ka-Tua was also an infamous villain in the land of God punishment. Most of the warriors at the same level couldn't fight as worthy opponents. Ka-Fu, his brother, was also a cunning opponent. This pair of brothers had been together for so many years, but they hadn't had many failures. If she had never fought against Shuryen, she wouldn't have believed that Shuryen could escape these two brothers either. However, she believed that he could do that despite the fact that her father and brother didn't buy it. Wait a little longer. I believe he will show up. He won't deceive me. Feng Rao didn't have absolute confidence in this. Even if you guys were close, for the star map, he would lie to anyone. My sister, you're a heroine. Why are you sorrowful because of the loss of affection? Sigh, women. When in love, their intelligence quotient reduces greatly. We shouldn't trust your suggestions. Feng Xiao felt very annoyed. He walked to the door and shouted, we have to do something. We can't just wait like this. Okay, you send troops to search around. Do not dismiss any cavern. When you find anything about that kid, report immediately. Feng-ku nodded, agreeing with this plan and believing that his daughter had made a mistake this time. Feng Rao grimaced. Waiting for Shuryen, she started to doubt herself, thinking that Shuryen might have deceived her. However, at this moment, a voice arose. Chief, a young man asked to see you. He said his name is Shuryen. Feng Rao's soft body shivered. An extreme joy sparkled in her eyes. As her heart sent out vibes, she calmed down but maintained her smile. Feng-ku was astounded. He jolted and shouted, bring him in. Feng Xiao halted by the door and burst out laughing with an odd face. Oh well. I guess there is someone as stupid as Feng Rao. Haha. He comes. I'm so surprised. He looked at Feng Rao laughing. Sister, you do have your tricks. That kid must have been so charmed and deluded that he couldn't see the right road. Feng-ku also smiled. It is fortunate that he came. I didn't expect that he would be a man of his words. I looked down at him. Yeah, this boy is truly a character. He dares to come to our lair. Haha, interesting. Ka-Tua and his brother couldn't deal with him. I told you. Feng Rao smiled in content. She stood up and walked to a bright mirror to adjust her hair and dabbed a thin layer of powder on her face. After making sure that she was flawlessly beautiful, she walked to the door. On the wide street, Shuryen stood upright like a spear, his visage valiant, cold and harsh. Warriors of the Blue Demon Pirates were waiting for him solemnly, inviting him to get in. Shuryen nodded without a beam of fear in his eyes. He walked with his head held high. He deliberately strolled towards the most dangerous place of the land of God punishment. Chapter 823. Don't lean too close. Chapter 823. Don't lean too close, _. Haha. Young hero, you came. Little buddy, you've kept your word and I am now happier than ever. Feng Ku laughed loudly and hospitably in his spacious hall. He looked so happy. Shi Yan and Feng Rao walked together. The pirates of the Blue Demon studied him with curious faces along the way. After being away for more than 200 years, Feng Rao was back with the information of the star map, which stirred up those who knew the legends of the Raging Flame star area. As they knew that the star map was in Shi Yan's hands, they were all thrilled that he came. Shi Yan was wearing a tight warrior black costume. He didn't look very outstanding. However, his eyes were bright and his spirit was high. At the same time, his aura was introverted, which made people not dare look down on him. Feng Rao wore a long silky dress that revealed her graceful body. Her slender legs were exposed naturally and beautifully while she walked. In the land of God punishment, the reputation of her glamour had spread widely. More than 200 years ago, she was the number 1 or 2 most beautiful woman. She had been away for a while, but when she came back, she had retained her beauty. Now she had the bearings of an attractive mature woman. The space pirates looked at her with hot eyes and drooling mouths. When she and Shi Yan walked shoulder by shoulder, she attracted a lot of looks. However, they didn't dare to show her their lustful visage. All were showing great respect to her. She was Feng Ku's only daughter, the young lady of the chief. She also had a high realm and performed many brutal deeds. Before she had left the land of God punishment, she had already been notorious. And now she came back with a crucial treasure. No one dared to mistreat her. Greeting, Precursor Feng Ku, Shi Yan smiled, slightly bent his body in a manner that he was both humble but also independent. He naturally walked to the center of the stone hall. He showed his manners with his back upright. The Blue Demon's base was a strange conical structure, which was around 100 meters tall. With a spacious foundation, its radius shrank as it went to the top. At this moment, Shi Yan was in the middle level of this building, a large space without windows. The hall had many big stone pillars with exquisite patterns and inlaid crystals for illuminating the room. Shi Yan could feel the faint energy ripples of those pillars. Besides Feng Ku and Feng Xiao in the stone hall, Feng Ku's subordinates were also present. Most of them had the third sky of King God Realm cultivation base. Before Shi Yan reached the hall, Feng Ku smiled and rose his arm to make a signal. Those warriors sitting on his side stood up, bowed to him and left. Then, only Feng Ku, Feng Rao, Feng Xiao, and Shi Yan remained in this large hall. Good, you're a man of his word. You have integrity. Feng Ku was sitting on the high throne of this hall. He waved his hand to signal Shi Yan to sit down. Then he said, to be honest, the star map is really crucial. You surprised me by coming here personally. Haha. If I were you, I wouldn't have exchanged the star map for just 3 human body cauldrons. And I would never have shown up to fulfill my promise after I confirmed that my people were saved. For the star map, I've been patient for years. I spent so much for it. Feng Xiao also nodded and smiled. Little buddy, you're quite the character. I'm not surprised that you were the young expert who was eligible to enter the extreme purgatory field. Seeing you, I know the Dark Firmament Divine Nation has a lot of talents. I've promised Feng Rao that I would bring her the star map and I couldn't fail her. In our life, we have something that we must hold on to. Take my 3 friends as an example. In your eyes, they are trivial and not worth your concern. But to me, they are very important. For their lives, I don't think paying the star map is unreasonable. Shi Yan smiled, turning to look at Feng Rao beside him. His eyes sparkled with a faint hot light. If I didn't come here, she would have hated me to death. You know how I think, Feng Rao smiled. Her eyes twinkled as though she had a good mood. Feng Ku and Feng Xiao were the ones with cunning hearts. From Shi Yan's and Feng Rao's words and gestures, they smelled something abnormal. Here's the star map. Precursor Feng Ku, please receive it. Yan contemplated before taking out the star map from his fantasy sky ring. His mind flickered and the star map turned into a beam of light, flying toward Feng Ke. Feng Ke's eyes brightened. He couldn't hold in his laughter. He grabbed the star map, sending his soul consciousness to sense it. He was so excited and he shouted, "Good, good, good." Feng Xiao found it hard to cover his thrill. He instinctively stepped forward, wanting to see the mysteries of the star map. "Little Rao, take Yan to rest first. I'm going to summon the leaders of the other forces to discuss finding the new star area. We also invite our little buddy to join the meeting. He brought us the star map, so he should join us." Feng Ke cheered up. He wanted to say something, but because of the star map, he just let them go. Feng Rao giggled, throwing Yan her charming look and walking out of the room. Yan didn't linger. He bowed to Feng Ke and followed Feng Rao, letting her arrange him a place to rest. "Father, it seems like my sister and that kid are in a relationship." "I think my sister loves him," said Feng Rao after the other two left. He frowned. Feng Ke stopped exploring the star map. His face darkened as he said, "Right. Seems like little Rao likes him. But that kid, I can't tell. My sister said that when we find the new star area, we have to give him 1 life star." "Father, do you really want to do that?" Feng Xiao didn't want that to happen. It was obvious in his eyes. He continued in a soft voice, "Leaders of the other forces will join us directly. If we do find the new star, we will need a giant workforce and countless materials to explore it. Then, each leader will have their own requests. Russell, Barrett, and Jia Nong aren't easy to deal with. Wars will start. If we give him a life star, it may be hard to manage." Feng Ke quieted down, knitting his eyebrows tightly. After a while, he spoke up. "At this moment, we will agree to his condition. When we find the new star area, we will negotiate again. If that kid is as outstanding as what Feng Rao told us and he wants to work for us wholeheartedly, we will let him marry little Rao and give him a life star. Anyway, if he married little Rao, he will become one of us. That life star will belong to us. Just consider this." "Father, you're so wise," Feng Xiao complimented. He paused for a while, then continued, "What should we do if his competence isn't as prominent as we thought? Or what if he ends up not wanting to work for us or doesn't want to marry my sister?" "Haha. Do you need me to tell you how to work in a situation like this?" Feng Ke's eyes expressed murderous intentions as he talked coldly. Feng Xiao seemed to wake up. He laughed quietly. "I got it. Check out the star map first. Don't overthink. If that kid doesn't have sufficient power and competence, even if they love each other, I will interfere. Unless he can show his abilities and prove to provide strong support for us, he is too naive if he thinks that he will earn something in our territory." Feng Ke knitted his eyebrows and concentrated on the star map. He gathered his spirit and started to feel it. On the top of the conical building was a triangle platform where someone put a tall glass table with sparkling, fulgent fruits. Yan and Feng Rao sat on the glass stools, eating exotic fruits and drinking fragrant wine. They were watching the Heaven Punishment City underneath with relaxed faces. This conical palace was the base of the Blue Demon Pirates. It was the highest place in the Heaven Punishment City. From this building, they could see each corner or street of the Heaven Punishment City clearly. Feng Ke liked to view things from a high elevation because everything he saw was tiny. When he had free time, he often went there to watch the city, which gave him a natural pride and satisfaction. Sitting a glass table away from Feng Rao was Yan, who was also observing the entire city. He could vaguely feel the satisfactory feeling that Feng Ke had. This city was so vast. It was the most strangely prosperous and luxury city of the entire Raging Flames star area. So many pirate organizations based here. Seeing countless thugs, villains, thieves, and madmen from everywhere else moving under his feet, he felt like he had them all in the palm of his hand. This feeling was so marvelous. "How is it?" "I didn't lie to you, right?" Yan took a sip of the fragrant wine in his glass. He stood up and looked at the tiny warriors moving to and fro under his feet. He said loudly, "Your father knows how to enjoy life." From this place, with his second sky of original God realm, he could see the details of warriors' appearance and commotions who are on the ground. "Haha. I think no armed battle could stay away from his sights, right? I knew you will come, Feng Rao smiled brightly. She got up from her seat, walked gently over to him and stood next to him to watch the city under their feet. She talked to him mildly. A man with the drive and ambition to build a kingdom can satisfy his pride by controlling people's life. But we women don't want these. A man we choose to entrust our life is more important. Shi Yan was shaken. He smiled, turning to her. What do you think of me? Am I worthy of your trust? Geez. Feng Rao smiled, shaking her head. Her beautiful eyes met his eyes for a while. You do know how to use water to speed up your boat. You're too dangerous. You have a lot of wicked thoughts. You can't stay still. Your woman won't have peaceful days. You like adventures, don't you? Shi Yan smiled. We are the types of people who have to pursue realms and powers for our entire life. Do you think we will ever have a normal life? If we don't struggle with adversity, we can't advance our power to have a moment of peace. Don't you think so? While talking, he suddenly turned around, walking towards Feng Rao with his passionate eyes. Feng Rao's maiden heart shivered, but she didn't back off to keep a safe distance with him. Her beautiful eyes gazed at him. She gritted her teeth, her cheeks blushing. Bastard! Don't lean too close to me. Chapter 824. Can you be more shameless? Chapter 824. Can you be more shameless? The tall platform of the Heaven Punishment City. Shi Yan stuck close to Feng Rao chest to chest. His eyes were hot, and he was grinning evilly. Feng Rao was wearing a silky, floaty dress, which revealed her graceful, attractive curves. Her milky bosom was high and ample. Her charming face showed that she was shy as she looked at him with her bright, watery eyes. Shi Yan pretended not to see it. He swayed his body to caress her body. He felt happy without shame. Can you be more shameless? Feng Rao blushed. She snorted at him, but she didn't step back as though she wanted to see the most shameless action he could do. Oh dear, I can. Shi Yan grinned evilly, placing his left leg between Feng Rao's slender legs. Their legs caressed each other, and they could feel each other's warmth. He muttered, "You look so beautiful right now. You're so shameless." Feng Rao couldn't stand it. She took a step back, gasping for her breath. Her charming face was so red it looked as red as a rose. She gritted her teeth, rolling her eyes at him vehemently. I've been asking for your profile. You are dependent on Princess Zi Yao of the Dark Firmament Divine Nation. Do you like her? Are you one of her soldiers? Otherwise, with her realm and power, how could she bind you? If you like her, don't flirt with me. Or else, I won't let you leave at ease. Don't be jealous. She and I are just making use of each other. It's not as complicated as you think. Shi Yan felt funny, shaking his head, talking seriously. The relationship between she and I isn't as deep as what we have now. Believe me, in this raging flame star area, there is only one woman in my heart. And it is you. Feng Rao's heart jumped with joy. She lifted her head, revealing her jade-like neck. Then you have to agree with me that from now on, you're no longer Princess Iseo's escort. No problem, Shi Yan agreed without spending a moment to think about it. He smiled brightly. What else do you want? Tell me. I can satisfy all of your wishes. Haha, you're my woman. I will treat you well. Your woman. Feng Rao blushed and sorted. Not that easy. You bastard. Do you remember how you treated me previously? You almost killed me. I'm not gonna forgive you that easily. The past is in the past. Don't remember what happened before. Shi Yan chuckled. His figure flashed, and he stopped in front of Feng Rao once more time. He pulled her into his embrace, then whispered in her ear. Isn't it good this way? I came to the land of God punishment for you. I handed over the star map for you. I've tried my best to create a good relationship with your brother and father. And with you. If you're content, I'll be satisfied. Sweet but worthless words came out tenderly from his mouth. Those barefaced words between lovers were like spells that calmed Feng Rao. She proactively hugged him, murmuring, "You're talking sweetly. Tell me more." Of course, Shi Yan would satisfy her. He had mastered speaking such sentimental words in a soft tone in the other world. They filled Feng Rao's heart with sweetness. Her body shivered in joy. Dash, where has that bastard gone to? It's been so long. Has he left already? Ziyao was so bored, walking on the spacious street of the Heaven Punishment City. She kept complaining. Yalin, Taimu, and Aogera were very interested in the endless rare cultivating materials in the Heaven Punishment City. They scattered and bought what they liked, leaving Carthu to walk with Ziyao on the streets of the Heaven Punishment City. I received the news saying that he, Ka-Tua, and Kafu had left the Heaven Punishment City. Yeah, I think they are hiding in the land of God punishment now. Carthu smiled, talking deliberately. Don't be impatient. I heard that he agreed with Feng Rao, Feng Ke's daughter, that he would come back to give the star map when he confirms that his friends were cured. Feng Rao. Is she beautiful? Ziyao slammed her delicate brows together, asking instinctively. A thorny rose of the land of God punishment, Feng Ke's precious gem. Of course, she is beautiful. Haha. Many crazy people of the land of God punishment like her. However, if compared to your highness, she's still a little bit behind. Carthu smiled and answered. Why is he with that woman? Snorted Ziyao. They came out of the Purgatory Star together. That little girl Feng Rao was one of the prisoners of the Purgatory Star. She was there for the star map, I supposed. Carthu furrowed his brows. That Feng Ke is too cunning. For the star map, he let his daughter disguise and come to the Purgatory Star for 200 years. They are such patient people. If that bastard Shuryen comes to the Heaven Punishment City, will he go directly to the Blue Demon's base? Asked Ziyao. Carthu nodded and raised his arm to point at a conical building. That is the headquarters of the Blue Demon in the Heaven Punishment City. It is a heavily guarded place. Feng Ke is in there at the moment. Oh! Carthu suddenly halted, baffled. Light shot out from his bright eyes. He focused on the top of that building, his face astounded. Ziyao also lifted up her head to watch. However, due to her low realm, she could only see a vague area atop that building. She couldn't see things clearly. Carthu was bewildered for a long time, his countenance odd. He hesitated for a while before taking out a hexagonal quartz mirror and giving it to Ziyao. The top of that building has a barrier to prevent people from peeping in. This mirror can help you see through it. Ziyao was skeptical. Her eyes brightened as she concentrated on the mirror. A man and a woman were hugging each other on a crystal platform atop that building. They were talking to each other sweetly and harmoniously as if they had so many things to say. Her soft body trembled. Her face grimaced shortly and she had fire in her eyes. Ziyao shouted indignantly, Shameless. Shameless. That shameless bastard. She felt like her heart was going to burst. She felt so vexed, but she couldn't explain why. Her sorrow made her confused. Her rage burst out like an erupting volcano. She was so angry that she wanted to kill someone. Her body shivered as she cursed under her breath. Carthu rubbed his chin, looking at her quietly, his eyes strange. They're just hugging. I can't say it's shameless. Anyway, that kid is lucky enough. Feng Rao is an extraordinarily beautiful woman. TSK. During this crucial period when heroes are gathering for the star map, he's acting so relaxed. He even has time for love. Excellent. Bastard. He deserves 1,000 blades stabbing his back. Ziyao ground her teeth. We've crossed 1,000 miles to get here. He doesn't have morals. How dare he cooperate with the chief pirate's daughter? I'm so angry. She didn't know why seeing Shuryen and Feng Rao hugging made her feel so agitated. Annoyingly, sorrow rose in her heart as she hated that she couldn't storm over there to rip them apart. Don't be so angry. The Heaven Punishment City has many restrictions. If you disclose your identity before Aogu Duo and Leona arrive, I wouldn't be able to protect your life. Carthu saw her rage escalating. He was startled, hurrying to advise her. Shuryen is just a member of your entourage. You don't need to mind him that much. He has the right to pursue the women he chooses. You don't have the right to interfere with him. You have to consider the big picture. Crack! The hexagonal quartz mirror was broken. Crystal pieces shot out everywhere. Ziyao took several deep breaths. Her ample bosom bulged as she said irritatedly, not seeing is better and cleaner. Seeing him acting like that, I'm enraged because we've been worried about him the whole time. Darn it. This bastard still has time to work on his love life. Does he even know that people had been waiting and worrying about him anxiously every day? I'm not worried about him. Carthu felt a sting in his heart seeing the priceless hexagonal mirror being broken by Ziyao's rage. He muttered begrudgingly. That kid is so cunning. How could he fall into bad situations that easily? Among us, only you have been worried about him. No one else is worrying. Perhaps Aogera wished for him to die early, though. I want to meet him. Find a way for me to meet him, Ziyao snorted. She calmed down and talked to Carthu. Please arrange this for me. Give me time, Carthu sighed inwardly, agreeing with her even though he knew it would be troublesome. But you have to remember that you have to be very careful in the Heaven Punishment City. You can't disclose your identity. At least before Aogu Duo and Leona come, don't let anyone else know our identities. Okay, I promise, nodded Ziyao. A gateway to the Heaven Punishment City. Two people walked into the city. Guards by the gateways kneeled down on one knee to greet them. Welcome, Sir Barrett. Welcome, Sir Jianong. The two nodded and walked into the city, followed by more than 10 Profound Realm warriors with brutal and bloodthirsty auras. Barrett was a beefy human who was around 2 meters tall and wore heavy black armor. Jianong was a clansman of the Dark Spirit clan. He had a waist-length cyan hair outline his cold and solemn face. Fengku must have the star map now. Otherwise, he wouldn't have urged us to come here. Haha, I heard that Fengrao's back. I have to pay attention to her. I can't afford to let her escape again. Barrett grinned, looking at the stone building of the Blue Demon Pirates. Suddenly, he was baffled. He peered to see clearly, his face grimaced instantly. Jianong followed his eyes, looking further. He then burst out laughing and teased Barrett. Barrett, I think you've miscalculated. You've been yearning for Fengrao for so many years and now, someone else has taken her. Interesting. Haha. I think that kid has brought the star map here, but I didn't think that he'd be with Fengrao. Barrett darkened his face. His brutal eyes sparkled. Fengku has promised me many years ago that if I break through to the original God Realm, he will let me marry Fengrao. I've reached the original God Realm. Now I will see if he will fulfill his promise or not. Barrett, if you marry Fengrao, you will be bound to Fengku, right? You've been trying for so many years just to work for Fengku and his family. Will you give up all your hard work and achievements? Jianong was astonished. Before Fengrao had left the land of God punishment, Barrett had proposed to her. However, his realm wasn't high enough at that time, and he wasn't really outstanding among the forces of pirates in the land of God punishment. After more than 200 years, Barrett has become one of the strongest warriors of the land of God punishment and one of the biggest bosses of the Heaven Punishment City. He thought that he would finally get what he wanted. However, while standing just a few steps from the Heaven Punishment City, he saw something that enraged him rapidly. I want to meet Fengku immediately, Barrett shouted, disregarding the rule of the Heaven Punishment City, which banned flying in the city. He wildly flew away. Chapter 825, Stand Out. Chapter 825, Stand Out, _ Barrett stormed in like an enraged lion. He didn't care about the fact that warriors weren't allowed to fly inside the Heaven Punishment City. He flew furiously towards Fengku's Blue Demon base. Because of his raging flame, many people got hurt on the spacious square standing on his way. They cursed under their breath, trying to stay away from him as they were afraid that he would attack them to vent out his anger. Barrett's main power Upanishad was fire. He was also a hot-tempered man. Once he was infuriated, a flame would burn all over his body. The flame of an original God Realm warrior was blazingly hot, and it would increase the temperature of the Heaven Punishment City very quickly. Warriors on the streets yelled and cursed. However, when they looked up to see who caused the flames, they found that the rule breaker was Barrett. They immediately shut their mouths, not daring to utter a word. Although there were around dozens of different pirate organizations in the land of God punishment, there were only 4 truly mighty organizations. Barrett's Black Curtain was one of those 4 brutal, unreasonable forces. Barrett's Black Curtain grew fast. He had spent 200 years to make an anonymous force one of the 4 giants of the Heaven Punishment City. The Black Curtain Pirates had become famous in the entire Raging Flame Star area as a legend of Heaven Punishment City. Barrett was the man who had created this legendary force. Within 200 years, he had broken through to the original God realm and brought the Black Curtain Pirates to the peak of glory. They became a mighty force and their name was well known everywhere. Those who got inflamed by Barrett's fire were angry, but they didn't complain. They cowered, pretended not to see him breaking the rule. They were afraid that Barrett could see their discontent. Among the 4 great leaders, Barrett was the most aggressive one. He would kill people without explaining or reasoning. His deeds were merciless. To him, power ruled over everything else. His subordinates consisted of countless thugs and villains. Not many people dared to provoke him. He stormed fast towards the Blue Demon's base while the fire around his body shot out like burning meteors. Jia Nong was also one of the leaders. He became excited, following the infuriated man. It seemed like Jia Nong thought it was fun to see Barrett angry. Often, he would tease his companion, TSK, our poor Barrett. You've been waiting for 200 years to see Feng Rao and to become her beloved husband. How does it feel? Just like pouring more oil into the fire, Barrett's flames of anger increased. As soon as he landed, he shouted, Feng Ku. Inside the stone hall, Feng Ku was startled to hear his shout while he was immersing his mind into the star map. He retrieved his soul consciousness, his face dark. His figure flashed and he reached Barrett. He scolded the man with a grimace. Barrett, why are you acting insane again? I'm nice enough to invite you here to discuss the star map. Do you want to trouble me? Where's Feng Rao? Call her for me. Barrett took a deep breath. His eyes sparked a fire as he thundered indignantly. What did you promise me? You said that once I've entered the original God realm, you will let Feng Rao marry me. Now that I've reached the original God realm, I want Feng Rao. You should give me a reasonable answer now. Jia Nong chuckled and rose one hand to show his expression. Big bro Feng Ku, you did say that. I can testify. I can too. You did say that. Russell's voice arose from deep underground. As soon as he finished talking, Russell appeared, standing next to Barrett and Jia Nong. He grinned eccentrically as though he hated that this world couldn't be in chaos. Feng Ku was surprised. It has been 200 years, and during this entire time, Feng Rao wasn't home. He didn't notice this, and he had almost forgotten his promise. As Barrett reminded him, he suddenly recalled that he did make such promise. More than 200 years ago, Barrett was just a warrior at his first sky of King God realm who sought refuge in the land of God punishment. When he saw Feng Rao for the first time, he was stunned because of her beauty. He swore that he would make her his wife. At that time, Feng Ku had already been an overlord of the land of God punishment. Naturally, he looked down on Barrett, who had only the first sky of King God realm cultivation base. He mocked the man for his low realm and said that he didn't deserve his daughter. He had publicly said that if Barrett had reached the original God realm with a strong background force, he would fulfill his wish. At that time, he hadn't recognized Barrett's potential because people still chased Barrett to kill him. Feng Ku thought that Barrett would never make it to the original God realm. Not long after that, Feng Ku got the information of the star map. Feng Rao had volunteered to take this mission and went to the Purgatory Star to search for the star map. She left by herself. Barrett had yelled and shouted when Feng Rao had gone missing. Later on, he had to let her go. After more than 200 years, Barrett had reached the original God realm from his shallow realm that year. At the same time, he had replaced his former leader to be the big boss of the Black Curtain, the overlord of a region in the Heaven Punishment City. And now, Feng Rao came back. After Barrett received this news, he became so excited, and he went to the Heaven Punishment City immediately. However, Feng Ku had forgotten what he had promised the young man. As Barrett, Russell, and Jia Nong reminded him, he suddenly recalled that small event. Feng Ku, I am now asking you, will you fulfill your promise to me or not? Barrett chinned up, his eyes flaming. If you say no and we end up exploring the star map together, I won't be able to trust you in negotiations when we find something. Then, Wouldn't our efforts feel like they were for nothing? Russell and Jian Nong also nodded, implying that they agreed with this reasoning. While they were talking, more and more leaders of the pirates came. They gathered slowly. Bloody Slaughterer Katua was in that crowd, too. He was looking at the two sides with awe. Sage Jester, you are also here. Precursor Jester, come in, come in. Professor Jester, you've agreed to give me more pellets. You remember, right? Suddenly, a rustling noise came from the crowd. Alchemist Jester, who had his hands hidden in his sleeves, was strolling towards the hall. He nodded indifferently to people who greeted him. Jester was at the original god realm. His realm was outstanding in this place. And he was an extraordinary alchemist. Many leaders of the pirates had to ask for his pellets. They all paid him special respect. When he came, they showed their respect, proactively giving way to him. Jester nodded, walking coldly towards Barrett, Russell, and Jian Nong. He stood still and slightly bent his body to greet Feng Ku. Feng Ku, big brother, thank you for letting me join in this. Feng Ku smiled reluctantly, waving his hands. Professor, don't be too polite. We need your instructions with spiritual herbs and grass on the new star area. Blunt people like us can only fight. We don't know too much about the functions of herbs. Big brother Feng Ku, you're just trying to be humble. It is my great honor to participate in this operation, Jester smiled. He glared at Barrett, frowning. Why did you make so much noise? You've come just on time. Please listen to my grievance. Big brother Feng Ku had promised me that when I've reached the original god realm, he will let Feng Rao marry me. I'm at the original god realm now, and I want him to give me the final answer. Barrett said to Jester with great respect. He tried to calm down, holding in his anger. However, his face still grimaced while he thundered. The words of Big Brother Feng Ku has enormous weight. He won't lie, said Jester seriously. Big Brother Feng Ku, what is your opinion on this matter? Tell us. As the leaders of the pirates were in haste to discuss the star map, they didn't want to waste time because of Barrett's issue. Little Rao. Feng Ku had to go with the flow. He pondered for a while then shouted. His shout reverberated everywhere. Feng Rao had soon noticed the loud noise in the hall. Her beautiful eyes became gloomy, her face cold. She quietly came out from a back door. She stood by Feng Rao, glared at Barrett indifferently, and asked, if you want to marry me, shouldn't you ask me first? Barrett had calmed down for seconds. Seeing Feng Rao, he wasn't happy. Instead, he was more enraged. He shouted hastily, what do you mean? Do you think I am so blind that I didn't see you flirting with that kid? The blazing red flame expanded from his body. He shouted indignantly in the sea of fire. Where's that little dog? Tell him to get his ass here. I want to show him what he gets for touching my woman. I want to burn his soul altar into ashes and kill him slowly die, bit by bit, so he falls with agony. Barrett, control yourself. Feng Ku was enraged, his face cold and dark. This place is my blue demons. It's not your black curtains. Shi Yan brought us the star map. Without him, none of you would even have had a chance to touch a portion of its rewards. Calm down. Don't trouble everyone else. I don't care. I must kill that dog. Barrett was acting strangely angry, thundering. Feng Ku quieted down abruptly. Cold light sparkled deep in his eyes. He seemed to be really enraged. Seeing him getting angry, many leaders who were screaming and yelling shut their mouths abruptly. They all knew that when Feng Ku got angry, he was very intimidating. Even Russell and Jian Nong, who always wanted to see messy and chaotic situations, had to squeeze a forced smile. They didn't support Barrett's decision in provoking the others anymore. The whole scene was so quiet that people could even hear the sound of a needle falling on the ground. During this time, a beefy figure appeared next to Feng Rao, his face cold but natural. I'm Shi Yan. Good, kid, you have shown your face. You are brave enough. He dares jump out here when Barrett is so mad. Does he care about his life? Haha, he's an outsider. Perhaps he has never heard about Barrett's brutal reputation. True. This kid is in trouble now. The leaders of the pirates became boisterous again. They started to mock and insult Shi Yan. Only bloody Slaughterer Katua didn't utter a word. He was staring at Shiryen with his savage face, frowning and thinking about something. I told you not to come here. I will handle it. Why did you come here? Feng Rao furrowed her bold brows. She turned around, giving him a forced smile. Since you showed yourself, a small annoyance became a huge problem. Did you really want to provoke that madman? Shiryen beamed a faint smile as if he didn't care about that. I don't have a habit of letting women shelter me. Brave enough, not bad. Jiannong burst out laughing, then said oddly, just a little bit dumb. Yep, dumb he is. Russell nodded, agreeing with Jiannong. His eyes were cold and he felt so bitter inside. At this moment, he knew that Shiryen and Katua had joined hands to fool him. He felt so annoyed. Chapter 826. Monopolize. Chapter 826. Monopolize _. The headquarters of the Blue Demon Pirates in the Heaven Punishment City was boisterous with noise from many people. The pirate leaders felt that something interesting was about to happen. They were waiting for something fun. Jester was an alchemist at the original God Realm. He was standing shoulder to shoulder next to Russell, Barrett, and Jiannong. Listening to their mocking words, he observed Shiryen and got shocked. His eyes brightened with an unknown fear. His body slightly trembled. Small beams of fire shot out from his fingertips that he was hiding in his sleeves. Those flames didn't roll or burn like Barrett's fire. They were tender and nice, as if he was able to mold them into any shapes he liked. Each blacksmith or alchemist, even if his main power wasn't fire, was required to possess a special flame. Human flame or earth flame, they had to have one kind to continue advancing their refining and forging path. Just like Barrett, Jester's main power Upanishad was fire. However, his flame was fused with a special earth flame of the Raging Flame star area. Although it hasn't had a life form yet, its power was mighty. Jester's flame perhaps wasn't as powerful and bursting as the intimidating flames of Barrett. However, his attainment in using and controlling flames was an ability that Barrett couldn't compare to. As soon as Shiryen appeared, Jester was sensitive enough to feel the wild and malicious flaming power in his body as an alchemist. Such kind of dense and tremendous power made him gawked. That was why he quieted down instead of talking to support Barrett. He concentrated on Shiryen carefully. Little dog, you dare come here. I'm sure you don't care about your life. As Barrett saw Shiryen, he shouted. The flame around his body turned into a raising fire tide, swarming as if it wanted to clean everything. Wanton. Feng Ku was enraged. He rose one arm, tearing something in the sky. A tough lightning strike descended from the sky, directly slashing on Barrett's seething tide. Feng Ku cultivated lightning power. He had made the thunderbolt ball that Feng Rao used previously. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. The flames were hit by lightning, sending sparks everywhere. A giant part of those sparks was heading towards Shiryen. Standing in the crowd of leaders invited here, bloody slaughterer Katua couldn't help but shout. Those sparks fell like stars that showered on Shiryen. Feng Rao was also standing next to him. Seeing the flame dots falling from the sky, Shiryen frowned, but his face was still indifferent. Shortly after, a flow of icy power diffused from him. Crack, crack, crack. Even the void seemed to be frozen. With Shiryen as the source, thick and solid icicles were formed at the speed naked eyes couldn't observe. Thick white mist covered Shiryen and Feng Rao. The transparent ice layer under his feet flew up, creating a neat ice shield above their heads. Boom, boom, boom. Dense explosions arose above his head. The flame sparks from Barrett made an impact on the thick ice layer. Shiryen and Feng Rao were standing under the ice shield. They didn't receive a single burn. None of those sparks were able to get through the ice layer to reach those two. Ice power Upanishad. Not bad. You could shield Barrett's spark rain. Excellent. You fool. If Feng Ku didn't take action first to scatter the sparks, he wouldn't have been able to resist it. Right. It's our big brother Feng Ku who is powerful. He just defended himself from tiny sparks. It doesn't count. Anyway, this ice power Upanishad is good. Many pirate leaders started to discuss noisily as they were all surprised. While they were talking, more leaders who were invited to join the meeting came from another area of the Heaven Punishment City. Seeing the hot atmosphere here, they were curious, asking others for details with great interest. Those brutal and dangerous pirate leaders all hated that they couldn't mess up the whole things. Seeing something fun to enjoy before the meeting, they were all stirred up, laughing and watching the scene. Ice class. Feng Xiao was baffled. He glared at Shurian then frowned. Barrett cultivates fire power Upanishad. What a coincidence. Fire and ice are enemies. No wonder they don't like each other. Just a few of warriors in this crowd knew that Shurian didn't cultivate ice class power. Besides Bloody Slaughter Katua and Feng Rao, only the Jester knew this. Jester was so surprised that the muscles in his face twitched as he was shouted inwardly, Heaven Flame. The extremely cold Heaven Flame. Being an alchemist, he understood the magical and mysterious features of Heaven Flames very well. Anyway, Heaven Flames had never appeared in the Raging Flame star area. Seeing Shurian perform the power of a Heaven Flame made him very excited. Big brother Feng Ku, I want to ask again. Will you keep your promise? Barrett grimaced, taking a deep breath. As Feng Ku had taken action, he knew it would be hard to kill the other. Barrett pulled himself together. My father agreed with you, but I didn't. Shouldn't you listen to my opinion? Feng Rao knew that her father couldn't help her out in front of so many people like this. She couldn't help but cry with her soft voice. Barrett, you want to marry me. You've passed my father's challenge. You still have to go through my challenge. At this moment, even if Shurian isn't as strong as you, it doesn't mean that it will stay that way forever. Choose one of your troops who is at the second sky of King God Realm to fight Shurian. If your troop can defeat him, I will marry you. Many people here will witness it. I won't change my mind. How does that sound? After Feng Rao had finished, everybody started to clamor again. They cheered, supporting her idea. Usually, when they encountered something hard to solve with words in the land of God punishment, they would fight to seal the deal. Feng Rao had suggested an option that everyone else liked to see. They loved watching battles. Of course, people would support her idea. True. Barrett, you're at the original God Realm. It is not fair for you to bully that second sky of King God Realm kid. It should be a fight between the same realms. It is right and just. Yeah, it's not fair if they fight each other. If there was a battle between warriors at the same realm, people will accept the result, regardless of who wins. Second sky of King God Realm battles second sky of King God Realm. This is gonna be a fair game. I like it. Many onlookers couldn't help but yell their support. Russell glared at the Barrett, then shifted to Feng Rao, who was still calm and natural. All of a sudden, he frowned and said, I've met that kid once. An ordinary second sky of King God Realm warrior can't match him. Don't blame me for not reminding you. Besides the ice power, he uses space power. You have to be careful. His main power isn't ice, it's true. His real competence isn't what he just performed. I can assure you this, Alchemist Jester also reminded. Jie Nong was astounded. He couldn't help but look at Shurian. Barrett paled as he weighed each of his options. He couldn't make up his mind immediately. I think it's a good idea. Barrett, choose one warrior at the same realm as his to fight him. If he wins, Little Rao will be all yours. If he fails, we won't talk about this anymore. What do you think? As Feng Ku saw the onlookers agree enthusiastically with this promising battle, he then went with this flow. Barrett, do you dare join this battle? If any of your second sky of King God Realm warriors can defeat him, I agree to marry you. Feng Rao chinned up and urged. Do you dare join this battle or not? Spit it out. If you don't, you should never mention getting married to me ever again. So, at this moment, Shurian frowned and stepped one step forward. Reassured by Feng Ku's support, he faced the crowd of the pirate leaders of the land of God punishment. Looked at Barrett, who was hesitant, he said deliberately, any warrior under your command. Second sky of King God Realm or third sky of King God Realm is fair. You can choose one of them to fight me. If your man wins, I will leave immediately without complaining. If your man loses, then shut your *king mouth up. Don't linger and babble. Do you agree? The more he talked, the colder Yan's face was. His voice was like the sharp icicle. People were shaken. They were baffled looking at him. Such an extravagant kid. No one could hold his or her screams in astonishment. The warriors under Barrett's commands were more than clouds. They couldn't even count the number of warriors at the third sky of King God Realm. And they had to let Barrett choose as he pleased? Choosing a third sky of King God Realm to fight? Was he crazy? In the Heaven Punishment City, Barrett was famous for his wild insanity. However, today, people recognized that this outsider was also passionately crazy. Feng Rao paled in fright. She opened her mouth but didn't know what to say. She knew Yan's competence. Warriors in the same realm weren't his opponents. However, Feng Rao thought that if he fought a third sky of King God Realm, the result would remain unknown until it was finished. It was obvious that it wouldn't be easy to win. All right. While people were surprised, Barrett shouted his agreement, the muscles in his face twitching. Call Black Horn for me. A silhouette dashed away. It seemed like he was going to summon the one Barrett wanted. The bustle and hustle caused by those leaders ceased as they heard the name, Black Horn. Russell and Jianong were startled, looking at Barrett and shouting. You brought Black Horn here? You don't care about leaving your lair guarded anymore. Even Feng Ku, hearing the name Black Horn, had his brows slammed together. He shook his head begrudgingly as if he had already known how dangerous this man was. Since Feng Rao had left the land of God punishment for a long time, she didn't know many of the new faces in the place. She didn't know this number one hotshot named Black Horn. However, seeing people pale, she could spot that something was wrong here. Feng Rao asked her brother Feng Shao, Gidge, that Black Horn is really dangerous. A new thug. He's appeared in the land of God punishment around 100 years ago. He's the vice chief of the Black Curtain. Barrett calls him his brother. Before Barrett reached the original God realm, they always tied in their matches. Currently, in the land of God punishment, Black Horn holds the title of the strongest warrior under the original God realm. He can sweep away all the warriors at the same realm. He was at the peak of the King God realm. Feng Shao explained with a heavy and bitter face. Feng Rao's face changed immediately. Chapter 827. Black Horn of the Demon Clan. Chapter 827. Black Horn of the Demon Clan, _ Hearing the name Black Horn, the crowd of the pirate leaders quieted down. They put on reluctant faces as if they were afraid of that person. Even bloody slaughterer Ka Tuo's heart was sinking. He slowly protruded from the crowd and winked at Yan, implying that he should be very careful. Listening to Feng Zhao's briefing, Feng Rao paled, worried about Yan's chances. Anyway, Yan and Barrett had declared a battle in front of everybody else. If she stopped them now, would it look like she looked down on Yan? Be careful. I heard that Black Horn is really tough. Begrudgingly, Feng Rao could only walk to him and remind him. It's all right, Yan was still calm. He answered without the anxiety people usually have before engaging in a great battle. Barrett, you think of him highly. Jianong shook his head. You let Black Horn fight him. It not that different from fighting you, no? Harumph. Barrett grimaced, laughing coldly. I just don't want unexpected things to happen. Yeah, being careful is good. That kid isn't bad. I've seen, his space power isn't easy to deal with. Letting Black Horn fight him, you will prevent unnecessary mistakes, nodded Russell. In the land of God punishment, Feng Ku had the strongest force with his second sky of original God realm cultivation base. That was also why Russell, Jianong, and Barrett would team up to deal with Feng Ku when they faced him. While the three of them were discussed in a low tone, a freezing aura had shot over from a far distance. A hazy white light shone as a 3-meter-tall Herculean man appeared. He was a member of the Dragon Horn, a branch of the Demon Clan. His appearance was amazing with a savage curled dragon horn on his forehead. This man's skin was muscly dark like ink and iron. This man looked like he had infinite power. The beefy demon man wore only upper body armor, and the armor pieces on his shoulders had 2 curled, sharp spikes, which were around 1 meter long and looked extravagant. A cold aura diffused from his body. His eyes were icy clear. A cold mist twirled around his body, making him look like a thick ice block. People felt chilled standing close to him. They instinctively moved away. Ice class power. The latecomers' power Upanishad and Barrett's were polar opposites of each other. They were surprisingly close friends. Barrett, why did you summon me here? The hunky man's voice was like thunder. Can't you just decide the stuff about the new star area yourself? Why do you want me here? Haven't you done things like this enough? Blackhorn, I asked you to come here to help me take back a woman. Barrett took a deep breath then pointed at Shiryen. Beat him and I can marry Feng Rao. Take good care of him. Blackhorn was bewildered. He became foul-mouthed. You bastard, Barrett. Did you call me here for this? You really are too bored, aren't you? While he was talking, Blackhorn couldn't help but turn to Shiryen and thunder. Kid, you should just die. Don't waste my time. You can't kill him. As Feng saw that the battle will happen soon, he suddenly recalled something and shouted, only defeating. No killing. Blackhorn, you should notice that. If you kill him, don't blame me for turning my back on you guys. It was obvious that he didn't favor Shiryen. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said so. Blackhorn was really famous in the land of God punishment with the peak of King God Realm cultivation base. At the same time, as he was from the demon clan, his god body was very imposing. His understanding of the ice power Upanishad was also profound. Before Barrett had broken through the original god realm, he couldn't gain the upper hand fighting Blackhorn. People rumored that Blackhorn had almost accomplished the complete essence of the ice power Upanishad. He was at the threshold of the original god realm already. Blackhorn was a combative warrior. He often battled other people in the land of God punishment without a clear reason. In those recent years, famous warriors at the same realm with him had been beaten once. None of them was his rival. That was why Blackhorn was titled the best hotshot under the original God realm. In this land of God punishment, he was infamous. His reputation was even better than Bloody Slaughterer Katua, and his competence and background force were also one level higher than Katua. Many onlookers cursed under their breaths when they saw Blackhorn roar and attack. They had to back off instantly. When this brutal guy engaged in a battle, he wouldn't care about the onlookers. Once he started to take action, he would mind nothing. From time to time, the onlookers would get hurt by his mighty attacks. Blackhorn's icy clear eyes brightened. The freezing energy under his feet swept over everybody, dashing like a mad ice dragon underground, heading towards Shiryen. Crack, crack, crack. Big cracks appeared on the green ice block. Sharp icicles jutted from the ground. A thick ice layer appeared in the area between Shiryen and Blackhorn. The entire area was frozen. That kid also cultivates ice power Upanishad, just like Blackhorn. Haha, this will be so interesting. Barrett called Blackhorn here to teach Shiryen a lesson and to let him know about the real power and subtle features of ice power. Right. Barrett wants to use his favorite power Upanishad to defeat him. This will give that kid a nightmare, and he will never increase his realm again. It is that malignant. It's obvious. That kid dares to snatch Barrett's belonging. He shouldn't think about having a decent ending. Leaders of the other forces backed off, discussing with each other excitedly. The hustle and bustle of this area never ceased. They watched and screamed in awe. From the two big legs like the ice columns of Blackhorn, extremely cold energy continually seeped into the ground. The area between him and Shiryen was frozen with a thick layer of ice around 100 meters. Sharp icicles jutted under his power before they were flung out violently. As the cold energy permeated the area, warriors with low cultivation base shuddered. They had to back off further, but their eyes still glued to the flying icicles. Several hundred icicles hissed like a sharp spear as if they could tear the whole sky, bombarding Shiryen. Feng Ke had already taken Feng Shao and Feng Rao away from this place. Now, they were standing on a high platform several hundred meters away to watch the battle. Their arena was the training court of the Blue Demon's warriors, which situated on an area of several thousand square meters. As soon as Blackhorn urged his icy energy, the vast training court was frozen. It looked like a large frozen lake in the coldest area. Ice and snow covered every corner. When hundreds of sharp icicles arrived, Yan's body echoed the sounds of cracking bones. His hunky god body withered eccentrically. He became bony shortly. At the same time, a ferocious force rocketed unceasingly in his body. A bloody murderous aura shot out from behind his head, swirling up to the sky just like the pair of the devil. His eyes became garnet as if they congested. With his indifferent countenance, he gave people an emotionlessly scary feeling. Third sky of rampage. OSH*T. Tough. That evil energy was too strong. His powers increased several times in just a blink. Holy moly. That kid is intimidating. His powers increased in just a blink. What's going on? I don't get it. Everybody burst out screaming. That's how it was. Bloody Slaughterer Ka-Tua took a deep breath to calm down. At the moment he saw Yan's blood-red eyes, he knew that Yan was serious this time. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Several hundred icicles flung towards Yan rapidly like the ghosts coming for souls. Their power was so fierce. Even if the warrior at the second sky of King God Realm used a god domain, it would be smashed instantly. Lock. Yan's garnet eyes sparkled with blood-red light. His power shifted as he extended one arm, touching the void and shouting. Crack, crack. Space had confined everything. The wind ceased. The energy was stagnant. The god domain beside him became oddly silent. Hundreds of spear-like sharp icicles halted in the air. The icicle closest to him was just 1 meter away from his glabella. Break! Yan's god domain changed. The negative aura rolled up to the sky, turning into the blue ghost claws that slapped each pointy icicle. Boom! 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 Hundreds of icicles exploded in the air. Ice scattered everywhere. The immense mist wound around Yan dreamily. People were surprised. The boisterous noise ceased. On the stone platform, Feng Ku, the leader of the Blue Demon, was astounded. He turned around immediately and looked at Feng Rao deep into her eyes. Little girl, it's been so many years, and your eyes are still sharp. You've never wronged anyone. Feng Xiao was also baffled, muttering. I finally believe what she told me. No wonder why he dared to leave with Ka-Tua and Ka-Fu. Turns out his foundation is tough enough not to be afraid of others. Yeah, we're all wrong. This kid is a true character. I've told you. Even if I risk my life to fight him, the one who will get killed will be me, not him. Feng Rao was excited, but she pretended to be calm, talking faintly. That is how he is. Skipping level to fight is normal stuff to him. Feng Ku, Feng Xiao exchanged looked as they agreed inwardly. They were no longer suspicious. The icicles were broken, but Yan didn't have a scratch on himself. His congested eyes turned into a bloodthirsty red color. He looked at Black Horn from a distance, not yet attacking. Black Horn was baffled for a while. He gazed at Yan for a while. His nonchalant visage changed into a more serious one. He took a breath of cold air, talking solemnly. I've wronged you. You're a true rival. I'm going to make a deal with you with my best abilities. You've earned my respect. I will consider you a warrior with the same competence. Barrett, your rival isn't bad at all. He is as excellent as you were that year. Russell frowned, lowering his voice. Anyway, when you were in the second sky of King God Realm, you didn't have such mighty power, I suppose? Yes, he is absolutely a tough character. No wonder he was able to take the star map out of the Purgatory Star. He is not as simple at all. Jia Nong also appraised. Barrett grimaced and snorted but didn't answer. Heaven Flame. Where was the Heaven Flame? Jester's eyes were burning as he was screaming inwardly. He was yearning to see the Heaven Flames to seize the chance and assess it. Chapter 828. Break the ice to get out. Chapter 828. Break the ice to get out, _ Seeing that his first strike did not bring him victory, Black Horn was solemn. He sensed the energy fluctuate on Yan's body. Then, he became more frightened. At this moment, the energy ripples generated from Yan wasn't something a warrior at the second sky of King God Realm could have done. Even a warrior with the third sky of King God Realm cultivation base couldn't store energy at the high level that he was doing. Black Horn focused. He no longer had contempt towards Shiryan, standing there imposingly. A cold mist gushed out from his body, twirling around him. The hazy mist continually diffused and expanded. A freezing aura overflowed from Black Horn's body. Shortly, the several thousand square meter training yard was engulfed by a cold mist. Crack, crack. In the white fog, a glacier cracked on the ground and slowly emerged in the training yard. The translucent glacier was formed by the underground water under Black Horn's freezing energy. The chilly aura glowed even in the yard while the glacier shot out dazzling lights. The cold air permeated everywhere in the Blue Demon's base and slowly expanded to other places of the Heaven Punishment City. Many warriors of the Heaven Punishment City walking on the glamorous streets of the Heaven Punishment City suddenly felt cold air coming, which made them shudder. All of a sudden, those people found the source of this phenomenon was the Blue Demon's base. They hesitated for a while, then started to gather. The arena where Shiryan and Black Horn were fighting was the large training yard outside the Blue Demon's building, which had several stone gates. Guards of the Blue Demon pirates were watching each gate. They didn't allow anyone to get in. Chief, a warrior of Blue Demon, stood by the stone gate and looked at Feng Ku from the far distance and asked for orders. They are asking to come in and watch the fight. Should we allow them? Many warriors in the Heaven Punishment City were gathering at the stone gates of the training yard, screaming and yelling, asking to get in and watch the battle. Feng Ku arched his brows. He watched them from the stone platform, contemplated for a while, then said faintly, "Let them in." The crowd surrounding the stone gates became louder hearing him. Shortly after, many people stormed in and encircled the yard. Seeing the glacier raising in the air, they discolored in fear, asking the others to know what was happening here. Among this crowd, some people were hiding in the back as if they were afraid of being noticed. That small group of people included Karthu, Ziyao, Aogera, Yalan, and Taimu. Karthu, Ziyao, and Aogera, who had covered their faces with masks and stood behind the pirates of the Heaven Punishment City. They didn't dare come closer. Instead, they remained hiding and watching from a distance. "It's him." As she had just arrived, Ziyao trembled at first glance, shouting through her gritted teeth. Karthu, Aogera, and the others looked, and their faces became strange when they found a young man standing nonchalantly behind the glacier. Why is he fighting this other person? Ziyao was very surprised, whispering her question as she couldn't understand the situation. "Hey friend, what is going on?" Karthu frowned. He stepped forward, flashing 5 medium-quality divine crystals in his palm, then shoving them into the sleeve of a pirate. "Haha, they are fighting because of young Lady Feng Rao. Master Barrett wants to marry young Lady Feng Rao." Master Feng Ku agreed with him before. "However, it seems our lady likes that kid more." Then as the pirate received the payment from Karthu, he narrated the story livelily. After that, he waved his hands and stomped his feet to add more details. "When Black Horn and that kid started this battle, it didn't look like he will lose. This battle is fascinating. You should concentrate on the battle." Karthu was surprised. He nodded to the pirate, then stepped back, lowered his voice, and explained to Ziyao's group. "That asshole attacks Barrett's troop because of a woman. Damn it." Ziyao felt so annoyed listening to Karthu's narration. She cursed under her breath. She gritted her teeth while her beautiful eyes looked at Shiryan with rage. "Second sky. The second sky of King God Realm. This kid is really incredible." Karthu smiled bitterly, turning around to glare at Aogera. He compared the two inwardly, his face odd. Aogera grimaced, standing there upright and anxiously. "This boy really is exceptional," Taimu appraised. Yalan nodded in agreement. "I know him." Bai Ro's voice arose from another group. "Father, his name is Shiryan. We got him from Nita in the 6th Herbal Star. We used him as the human body cauldron for a while. After that, he joined Du Feng and Ziyao rescued them all. This man killed Fergie in our underworld league. He's really ruthless. Without him, Du Feng could never escape." Just like Ziyao, Bai Ro was disguised. She appeared to be a normal woman without the gentle and white features of the past. A new character, Bai Tian, the commander of the Underworld League, nodded. He was wearing a straw raincoat with a leaf hat. His realm isn't bad, the second sky of King God realm. Oh yeah, his realm isn't low. How were you guys able to capture him and make him a human cauldron that year? Bai Rua. Bai Tian frowned, changing his visage. Something weird. At that time, he had only the second sky of true God realm. Bai Ro looked baffled as she uttered uncertainly. Bai Tian's face became solemn. Are you sure? I'm not sure. But it's true that he had only the second sky of true God realm that year. Otherwise, none of us would have been able to restrain him, said Bai Ro in a worried manner. Her beautiful eyes sparkled as she couldn't believe it. Allard. Bai Tian let out a low shout. General Commander, young lady Bai Ro is right. At that time, he had only the second sky of true God realm. Moreover, he had broken through to his new realm on our steamship as a human body cauldron, said Alchemist Allard, his face grim as if he had just lost his parents. He is such a talented character, and you didn't recognize it to persuade him to join our force. You even let Dark Firmament Divine Nation take him. You fool. Bai Tian shouted in a low voice. Allard and Bai Ro regretted so much. Watching the silhouette standing in the training yard, they didn't know what to say. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Black Horn soared up to the sky. Ice blades danced around him. His god domain shot out, snatching Shiryen in the air. Countless ice cubes shot out from the raising glacier, fiercely overflowing his god domain, creating more icicles. At first glance, they looked like a billion ice blades revolving. This threat was formidable indeed. Quick ice windstorm. Black Horn roared. His voice was able to even shake the sky. 10,000 ice blades turned, creating a furious ice blade tornado covering the entire massive training court. The glacier vanished at speeds that naked eyes couldn't see. Countless ice beams shot into the sky, joining the center of Black Horn's quick ice windstorm. People then saw that the whole dome of the sky was covered with sharp, sparkling icicles. Billions of ice blades were about to sweep over the universe. This scene was very frightening. Many low-realm warriors retreated in fright as they were afraid that the ice blades would deviate and hit them, or that the cold chi could seep into their god bodies. Crack! Crack! The ice blade collided. Breaking sounds reverberated in the entire place. The quick ice windstorm had covered the entire training yard. The onlookers couldn't see what was happening in there. Only warriors at the original god realm could see through the cold air of the quick ice windstorm to vaguely see the situation inside the storm. The sharp icicles, ice crystals, ice sabers, and ice beams were wreaking havoc inside the quick ice windstorm. The green stone ground of the training yard exploded. Debris rolled together with the scattering ice pieces. Black Horn guided the quick ice windstorm to fiercely press down to imprison a person. Numerous pieces of icicles, ice crystals, and ice sabers were used, creating the icy power, which generated the glacier the second time. Gradually, pieces of rock and ice scattered. The earth-shattering energy tornado ceased, which divided into 5 or 7 parts in the middle of the training yard. A new glacier was formed. The transparent glacier was around 1,000 meters tall and a couple of 100 meters thick. It looked like a giant crystal block. Shiryen stood upright in the middle of the glacier. He didn't change his posture, looking like he never moved. However, his god body was confined in the thick glacier. When people observed him, they could see the current cold air streaming continuously through his body. Black Horn wore a cold visage. Standing on the glacier, he stooped to watch Shiryen being trapped inside the glacier. He snorted and turned to Feng Ko. Do I need to continue? Everybody else quieted down, looking at Feng Ku as if they had agreed to do so beforehand. They also glared at Feng Rao, who maintained a grimace while she stood behind Feng Ko. Barrett grinned continually, raising his voice. If Big Brother Feng Ku doesn't say anything, he agrees tacitly that you can kill him. Do it. Watch out. However, at this moment, Alchemist Jester, who had been silent from the beginning, suddenly felt something. He couldn't help but shout. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. A scarlet flame and a red-orange flame surged vehemently. Inside the glacier, they shot out from Shiryan's eyes. Within 1 second, the intimidating flames expanded, covering the entire glacier. The burning flame had melted and washed away the extremely cold energy of the glacier shortly. The scorching flames shot out, running on the glacier to reach Black Horn. Instantly, the flame mounted on his legs and crept all over his body. In just a blink, the furious flame burned Black Horn's body. He screamed crazily, which shocked everyone. The glacier melted quickly. Shi Yan simply left the ice. A brutal gleam sparkled in his blood-red eyes. He sprang towards Black Horn. Hiss hiss. The ear-splitting hissing resounded. Fine space cracks appeared in the void as if something was trying to get out of its confinement. Black Horn discolored as he felt his god's soul be constrained by some unknown force. No matter how hard he wiggled, he couldn't get rid of it. He couldn't locate the direction of the attacker. Black Horn felt so much pain. Starlight gathered, making a broadsword in Shi Yan's hand. The starry night seemed to be reflected in this broadsword, hiding the mysteries of the stars. It then turned into the moving starlight slashing at Black Horn. Black Horn got hit. Starlight sparked from his body as he was blown away. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. 3 bone thorns appeared in the void, stabbing his back. Blood splashed instantly. Shi Yan wore a cold and harsh face. There was no emotion reflected on his face. He continued to chase and bombard his target. Chapter 829. Become famous after one battle. Chapter 829. Become famous after one battle, _ Black Horn's god body trembled in the air like a kite that had its line cut off. However, he didn't fall. The extremely cold chi seeped out from his god body. A thick white mist covered his entire body, creating a thick ice layer. At this moment, Black Horn looked like a giant ice sculpture, crystal clear and sparkling. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The 3 bone thorns flew rapidly, tearing the dome of the sky. They hissed terrifyingly, pricking Black Horn's god body. His ice layer was smashed. Black Horn's god body bled terribly. However, the broken ice and the thick cold chi were lashing around him, protecting his god body. Although he had a lot of bleeding wounds, his foundation wasn't damaged. Black Horn was a member of the Dragon Horn tribe, a branch of the demon clan. He had an unbreakable body. After he reached the 3rd sky of King God Realm, his body became even more tenacious after countless quenching times. Although the bone thorns were sharp, they could only prick some holes, but not pierce through his god body. The broadsword now had a pair of glorious starlight wings. Shi Yan changed the direction continuously by the mysterious trajectory of the stars in the sky. Flames were generated between his palms, shooting out like rainbows covering the sun. They all aimed at Black Horn. Since Black Horn had cultivated the extremely cold power, when the flaming energy of the vermilion bird true flame and the earth flame seeped into his body, the energy in his body became chaotic. For the time being, he couldn't gather enough energy, which was also why he didn't do anything to resist Shi Yan's attack. Shi Yan knew Black Horn was a powerful warrior. When he attacked, he had to try his best and urge all the powers in his body. In the 3rd sky of Rampage Realm, Shi Yan continually changed his star power and space power, turning them into inexplicable martial techniques. He had used the shooting flames, the space confinement and space blades, and the 3 bone thorns. His attacks covered every direction, just like the thunderstorm, to restrain Black Horn's body. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The violent explosions, which were strong enough to shake the whole place, arose from where Black Horn was hovering. Pieces of ice shattered. Countless ice crystals flew beautifully and sparklingly everywhere. The extremely cold energy twirled around Black Horn. Under Shi Yan's fierce attack, his iron-rigid body echoed the sounds of clinking. Black Horn had to drain his power rapidly to create a thick, firm ice shield. A complex series of changes had confused the onlookers. Their clamorous discussions ceased as they concentrated on the battle. Shi Yan had been confined in the glacier. Shortly, powerful flames arose around his body, which broke the ice confinement to fly out. Then, he used that flame to seep into Black Horn's god body that made him struggle and prevented him from urging his energy. Then, Shi Yan seized the chance to bombard Black Horn, making him struggle more. Blackhorn didn't have extra energy or time to counterattack. This series of attacks had stunned people. After a while, they finally reacted, screaming and yelling. Fire power. How can he shift his power? Isn't his main power the Ice Upanishad? Holy moly. I saw the changes in space power. And where did that freaking flame come from? Where does this kid come from? His powers Upanishad are mixed, right? Hey, he can use so many kinds of power. He's cool, indeed. Blackhorn is suppressed. Too frightening. This outsider is really strong. Yeah, super strong. The onlookers had acknowledged Shurian's competence. At the second sky of King God Realm, he managed to suppress Blackhorn, which had proven everything. Even Feng Ku, Russell, Jia Nong, Jester, and the other original God Realm warriors quieted down. They were baffled and frightened inwardly. Barrett's face was stony. He didn't say anything, just gazing at the finished battle. He seemed to be waiting for something. I never imagined that he had become so strong, Carthu acclaimed in the crowd. Barrett must have counted on Blackhorn's tenacious god body. Too bad. He didn't know that Shurian's god body was also incredibly abnormal. I think Barrett had the wrong plan this time. Yalin and Taimu nodded, speaking in unison. Shurian's god body is too strong. We have never seen something like that before. Ziyao's beautiful eyes rippled with a strange light. Her bright line of sight was glued to Shurian, not detracting for even a second. She seemed to forget that Aogera, her admirer for years, was standing next to her. That kid is too brilliant. You fool. You didn't attract him. That was your biggest mistake. Bai Tian turned to Allard and Bai Rou, talking with his dark face. He took a deep breath then asked, "You two think about ways for us to overturn this?" Allard and Bai Rou exchanged bitter smiles, not knowing how to answer their superior. "We should always try." Bai Tian furrowed his brows, asking, "After this battle ends, you guys find a way to approach him and see if you can persuade him to join us. That boy will be a true character in our star area. If he works for us, we will have strong support." "Father, is he as talented as you said?" asked Bai Rou in a low voice. "I've been in the Raging Flame star area for so many years. I haven't seen a kid with that big of a potential." Bai Tian took a deep breath, his face serious. "If we can have him, I won't hesitate to let you marry him." Bai Rou's beautiful face discolored as she was stunned. When she parted from Shurian, she had boasted that she would make Shurian pay a big price for offending her. And today, to persuade Shurian, Bai Tian, her father, was willing to sacrifice her lifetime's happiness to make her marry Shurian. How could she face Shurian? She had made a big mistake that year. Allard bowed his head deeply. He didn't dare talk as his heart was filled with begrudging and bitter feelings. While the onlookers were clamoring, Shurian's body sparkled with starlight. His garnet eyes gazed at Blackhorn's god body. In the cold white mist, their god bodies collided and started to wrestle. The demon clan had tough bodies. After they had condensed the god body, their tenacious bodies would be ranked the first among the other clans. Shurian had the guts to jump into the mist and let his body take the impact of Blackhorn's body just to see how powerful his own body was. Boom, boom, boom. Just like the thundering drum beats, the two were entangled with each other in the thick white mist. They wrestled, generating an ear-splitting noise. The explosions echoed unceasingly. After 1 hour, everything gradually calmed down. The thick white mist dispersed, revealing the training yard little by little. The yard was almost torn apart with many deep holes, both big and small. The crystal-clear ice shattered everywhere. The whole scene showed devastation. Shurian and Blackhorn were both wounded. They stood in the middle of the yard, looking at each other. Blackhorn looked tired. Blood dripped from his face. He was powerlessly paled as his legs were shaking. They couldn't help him steady his body. Shurian was in the opposite condition. Although he had blood all over his body, his spirit, soul, and chi were still full. His eyes were still bright as though his power was still full. Blackhorn tried to endure for a while before he panted and sat down on the ground. He stared at Shurian for a while before stooping his head, talking to Barrett. "I've used all of my energy. I can't take your woman back. The energy of my god body was also consumed. I feel guilty for failing you. When he finished, everybody else gawked. Barrett wore a face that people couldn't see his real emotions. He looked at Shi Yan, then Black Horn. Afterward, he nodded. His figure flashed and he reached Black Horn, bringing him and soaring up into the sky. They disappeared shortly. As he and Feng Rao had an agreement in front of so many people and now he failed, he had nothing else to say but to leave. Staying here, he just gave the others the chances to tease and mock him. Thus, Barrett decided to leave quickly. As soon as Barrett and Black Horn had left, the yard seemed to explode with screams, cheers, grunts, and shouts. Many people now had another look as they admired Shi Yan with respect. Gee, you're right. I admit it now, Kafu had arrived in the middle of the battle. He had watched the last part of the battle. At this moment, he was filled with emotions. We're lucky that we didn't take action against you. Otherwise, we couldn't have gained anything but our own loss. Bloody Slaughterer Ka-Tua grinned evilly. Of course. If not, would I be that servile to call him my senior? Am I that low of a type of person? Kafu laughed. Girl, you've chosen a good guy. Feng could talk to his daughter with a smile on his face. Good vision. Pay attention to him and grab him tight. Don't let him leave you. I know, father. Do I need a reminder? Feng Rao shyly talked. Her beautiful eyes were filled with joy and excitement. She balled her fists as she was thrilled. She would never have thought that Shi Yan could have such power and strength. He defeated Black Horn, a warrior at the peak of King God Realm. He gave her a big joyful surprise. After this battle, Shi Yan's name had been widely spreading in the land of God Punishment. He was no longer a small, anonymous character without a legend. If he works for us, he will bring us great support for our team. If we can find a new star area, we will give him a life star. He is worth this price, said Feng Ku, pondering for a while. Feng Xiao nodded in thrill. This man has endless potential. If he works for us, a life star is worth giving to him. Feng Rao's beautiful eyes showed that she was touched. The happiness on her face became more vivid. As Shi Yan had gained her father and brother's approval, she was happy enough to think about her bright future. She thought that the resentment of spending hundreds of years in the Purgatory Star had been lifted away from her heart. Your Highness, your fortune is really big since you had that kid as your escort, Karthu spoke in a low tone in the crowd. He turned then continued, I will arrange things so as you can meet him. I hope he won't change and he will still work for you. Otherwise, the land of God Punishment will have someone much more intimidating than the combination of Feng Ku, Russell, Jia Nong, and Ba. That won't be good for the Dark Firmament Divine Nation. I don't know if he has changed or not. I don't know if he will continue to be my entourage either. Ziyao's face was bitter as she felt that a treasure was sliding away from her. All of a sudden, she became sorrowful. The land of God Punishment has so many pirate organizations. But they will have a master in the near future, said Bai Tian, the commander of the Underworld League. He took a deep breath then said, Little Ro, has this kid had good feelings for you? Bai Ro was stunned. She contemplated for a while then shook her head. Then let's make him have such feelings, said Bai Tian with a solemn face. Use your beautiful face to charm him. It won't be a difficult task, right? You guys should plan carefully and make him our subordinate. He's the target right after the star map. Pay more attention. Chapter 830. Ziyao's Secret Bitterness. Chapter 830. Ziyao's Secret Bitterness. Shi Yan stood upright in the middle of the ice, frowning while his soul consciousness wandered around the clamorous crowd. He was a little shaken. His eyes roamed around the crowd once. He suddenly found something, his eyes sparkling. However, he didn't focus any further on sensing where his soul consciousness had found something significant. Shi Yan and Ziyao had spent a long time together in an abandoned area of the solar star exploding fragment field, and he had used the Life Upanishad to heal her wound, so he was much familiar with her life magnetic field. While battling with Black Horn, his soul consciousness had become crystal clear, more than ever. He could grasp all the commotions around him, even the tiniest ones. At that moment, Shiryan knew Ziyao was here. As Ziyao was the princess of the Dark Firmament Divine Nation, when her identity was disclosed in the Heaven Punishment City, she would have big trouble. Shiryan understood this well. Thus, although he could sense Ziyao's direction, he didn't dare look at her as he was afraid that others would notice. This would reveal Ziyao's identity. This battle ended as Barrett had brought his warrior away. Fengke laughed and he seemed more lively and joyful. He rose his voice and shouted, "My challengers, please leave. You have no more business left here. Leaders who were invited, please stay. I have something important to discuss with you." He had invited the leaders of different forces in the land of God Punishment to discuss the new star area. That battle only occurred because Barrett suddenly demanded Feng Rao crazily. As everything was okay now, he wanted to discuss the star map as it was originally planned. Unauthorized people couldn't stay. As Fengke shouted, the guards of the Blue Demon at the stone gates started to make people leave. The uninvited warriors of the Heaven Punishment City had to leave under Fengke's threat, including Karthu's team and Baitian's team. Soon, only the leaders of the other forces, Russell and Jie Nong, stood on the ground where ice still scattered. They exchanged looks and walked to Fengke. However, Jester didn't move, his eyes gazing at Shiryan as if he had so many things to say to him. Fengke was in a good mood, smiling at Feng Rao. "The meeting will be very boring. It will not be anything fun. You don't need to join it. Take this fantasy sky ring. It stores around 1,000 top-quality divine crystals. You take Shiryan to walk around the city and see if you want to buy anything. He just arrived in the Heaven Punishment City to give us the star map. I don't think he had any time to visit anywhere. You should go out and have fun. The meeting will take some time. When there are results, I will tell you." Feng Xiao was also happy. "Little sister, that kid has extraordinary realm and competence. Watch him carefully. After this battle, his name will spread in the entire land of God Punishment. We have many strong women here. Don't let them steal your man. Who can be more beautiful than me in the land of God Punishment?" Feng Rao laughed arrogantly as she was full of confidence. "Don't worry. I will keep an eye on him. Yeah, we're heading out now." While they were talking, she flew out of the stone platform, slowly descending. She got to Shiryan and said tenderly, "We should look at some of these areas. Heaven Punishment City has many interesting places and wonderful objects to buy in the shops. Perhaps you would like to buy something." Since his arrival in Heaven Punishment City, Shiryan hadn't had a peaceful moment. He had visited Ka-Tua and Ka-Fu for a short period of time before Russell threatened them to leave. Afterward, they had hidden outside of the Heaven Punishment City. Shiryan hadn't had the chance to walk around this place. What Feng Rao suggested was also what he wanted to do. Also, he needed to walk around the wide streets of the Heaven Punishment City to find and meet Ziyao. Shiryan agreed and walked with Shiryan out of the training yard to visit the hustle and bustle of the Heaven Punishment City. Two people came to them one after another. The first one was Ka-Fu. "My brother leaves me here. I have nothing to do now. Shiryan, do you want to take a walk with me?" Bloody Slaughterer Ka-Tua was also invited to the meeting. Seeing Fengke and Shiryan perhaps had a close relationship, he decided to stay and explore for a while. He tacitly asked Ka-Fu to stay with Shiryan to avoid any unexpected events. Ka-Fu was an experienced businessman. He knew every precious item and where they sold them in the Heaven Punishment City. If Shiryan wanted to buy something with Ka-Fu's assistance, he wouldn't receive a rip-off. "No need. I'll go with him." Feng Rao let out a low shout to reject Ka-Fu before Shiryan could agree to his offer. "Ka-Fu, you should return to your shop and to your business," frowned Feng Rao. Ka-Fu was surprised. He beamed a forced smile but didn't answer her right away. He looked at Shiryan instead. Shiryan gave him a slight nod. Ka-Fu didn't talk more. He clasped his fist before saying his farewells and disappearing into the hurrying crowd. Another figure approached them. He was the alchemist Jester, the one who should have been staying in the Blue Demon's base to discuss with the other leaders of the pirates. However, he proactively got out to find Shiryan. "Sage Jester, why are you here?" Feng Rao asked as she didn't understand why he was here. She then introduced him. This is Sage Jester, the original realm alchemist of our land of god punishment. He has cured Bao Ao and the other two. Shiryen was shaken. He bowed respectfully to thank the old man. How great you are, Professor. Without you, I'm afraid my 3 friends wouldn't have been able to be cured of the flower. Alchemist Jester waved his hands, his face stimulated. Not a big deal. Pardon me for asking something. Is the flame you use the heaven flame? Yes, it is, Shiryen nodded. He thought he didn't need to conceal this. Jester was shaken vehemently, his eyes sparkling with divine light. Can you sell your heaven flame to me? Whatever you want, just name a price. As long as you nod, everything is okay. The heaven flames were the foundation of the alchemists and blacksmiths. When a blacksmith or an alchemist had the heaven flame, it would be like a tiger with a pair of wings. The advantage was immeasurable. When the alchemist has the heaven flame, he doesn't need to use the cauldron anymore. The heaven flame was the best cauldron one could ever have. Jester was a talented but stubborn alchemist. He knew about the heaven flames. Thus, when he heard Shiryen confirm that he had the heaven flame, he was so excited. He wanted to merge the heaven flame into his soul altar, which would sublimate his refining career. I'm sorry. No matter how great of an offer you can give me, I can't sell it. Shiryen smiled and shook his head. As an alchemist, you know how magical the heaven flames are. And besides being a warrior, I'm also a blacksmith. The heaven flame is also important to me. I will never sell my flame. Jester was stunned. Feng Rao was perplexed. You're a blacksmith too. Rubbing his nose, Shiryen said deliberately, what's weird about that? So you're a low-level blacksmith, I suppose? How else could you go that far with your powers, Upanishad? She instinctively assumed. Shiryen just smiled and he didn't explain. I know nothing can persuade you, sighed Jester. He pondered for a while then asked, so can you use your heaven flame to help me refine a cauldron of pellets? Of course, I will pay you sufficiently. Jester asked Shiryen sincerely. He slightly bent over, his eyes filled with desires. If it's okay, you should help him. Anyway, he saved your friends, Feng Rao added. All right, I can help you once. When? Shiryen thought and agreed with him as he found nothing wrong with that. Haha, I'm not hurried. I haven't prepared enough. Jester rubbed his hands, his face excited. Then, I won't disturb you guys furthermore. I'm going inside to listen in on the meeting. Shiryen, remember our deal. When I gather enough materials, I will need your help. Thank you in advance. No problem, Shiryen smiled, watching Jester returning to the blue demon's base. This old man isn't as difficult to talk to as you said. You told me it would be really tough to ask for his help. Feng Rao's face darkened and she put her head down, her eyes looking at the ground. Do you know how much he asked to cure your friends? How much? 50,000 top-quality divine crystals. Plus 3 kinds of divine-grade herbs he prescribed. Feng Rao said bitterly through her gritted teeth. Shiryen was surprised. Instantly, he felt happy, grinning. So he's rich, right? It's good then. When he asks me to help him, I'll make him give half of that amount back. Feng Rao's beautiful eyes brightened. She nodded continually, speaking cheerily. You should treat him that way. They were talking while sauntering around the wide streets, which extended everywhere in the Heaven Punishment City. They lingered in some shops. Shiryen wondered. He seemed to not be too interested in the strange and rare items in the shops. He didn't want to buy anything. He just visited each shop as if he simply enjoyed walking and watching things. Feng Rao didn't know that Shiryen wanted to take a walk just to wait for someone. She was secretly happy thinking that Shiryen wanted to be with her. She didn't hurry. She just acted as a delicate guide taking him here and there. Gradually, they left the rowdy streets to a stream that was north of Heaven Punishment City. There was an arch bridge where they were standing and they watched the murmuring currents underneath. They felt even their hearts quiet down. Right at this moment, Shiryen's brows suddenly twitched. He smiled and said, I need to use the bathroom. Wait here for me. I'll back soon. Feng Rao didn't doubt him. She blushed, rolling her eyes at him. You bastard. Why did you tell me such things? Just go, you don't need to say it so explicitly. Shiryen chuckled, turning around and disappearing into a small, desolate alley. In an elegant and quiet front courtyard, A graceful figure was standing under the shade of a luxuriant scholar tree. She didn't face the wide-open main gate, talking faintly, "I thought you would never come." "Your Highness." Shi Yan stopped by the gate and bent his body slightly, his face complicated. "I haven't met you since you left the glorious amethyst star. It's been a while. Why are you in the Heaven Punishment City?" Ziyao turned around. She had taken off the skin tone mask earlier. Her unparalleled glamour was so enchanting that she could easily take people's souls away. However, deep in her pretty eyes, Shi Yan could see a gleam of bitterness. She said tenderly, "Sir Carthu received news saying that the star map appeared in the land of God punishment, so he came here. And I heard that you were also in the Heaven Punishment City, so I came here to see you. Anyway, I thought that you would be having a difficult time, so I came here to rescue you. I couldn't imagine that you were enjoying it so much here. It was just me who was overthinking and underestimating your competence. I shouldn't have worried about you so much." A gleam of affection crossed Shi Yan's eyes. He quieted down, not knowing what to say. Chapter 831. Bet on your future. Chapter 831. Bet on your future, _ Seeing each other once again, Shi Yan didn't know what to say. After they parted in the glorious amethyst star, Ziyao came to the dark firmament star while Shi Yan went to the purgatory star to join the extreme purgatory field. On his way, his war chariot exploded, creating the dark magnetic deadly explosion, which almost smashed him. He was sure that the one who had attacked him in the dark was Aogera. Not long after he arrived in the purgatory star, Aogu Duo suddenly wanted to kill him, accusing him of joining bloody slaughterer Ka Tua to assassinate Ziyao. If Leona hadn't stopped him, Shi Yan would have been dead. Both potentially fatal incidents were related to Aogera. However, Ziyao still took Aogera to the Heaven Punishment City with her. Obviously, she didn't punish him but considered Aogera an important chess piece. Perhaps in her eyes, Aogera still had a big value. Or she was afraid of Aogu Duo's force. No matter the case, to Shi Yan, he couldn't let it go as he was the victim. As long as Aogera was with Ziyao, Shi Yan felt annoyed. "Your Highness, the Heaven Punishment City is unexpectedly dangerous. If you didn't bring enough forces here, you should leave early," Shi Yan said after a long moment of silence. Ziyao's eyes became gloomier. "How about you? Will you go with me? If you expel Aogera, perhaps I will." Shi Yan rose his brow. "I've almost died twice because of him. If he stays, I can't sleep or eat well by your side." "Are you sure he did that?" Ziyao said sadly. Shi Yan beamed a faint smile. "Even with your wisdom, I don't think you recognize his hostility towards me. No matter what reason you have to keep him with you, I don't feel well with it. I won't fight shoulder by shoulder with him. We'll soon have a fight to the death." Ziyao's face was bitter. "Aogera has been following me for so many years. Even if he doesn't have any merit, he is dedicated enough. His works in the glorious amethyst star are well done and transparent. I don't have a reason to expel him. Moreover, he is Aogu Duo standing behind him. Can you give me more time?" "I can't ask you for anything, Your Highness," Shi Yan smiled, "but I will remember how you helped him. However, if I deal with Aogera, I won't intentionally lower my powers. If he stays in the Heaven Punishment City, I'm not sure if I won't kill him. How about you? What's your relationship between you and Feng Rao?" Ziyao furrowed her delicate eyebrows. Shi Yan was surprised. He shook his head and laughed. "I think it has nothing to do with you, right? I have the rights to chase after any woman I want. You don't have the right to interfere with my business. Am I right?" "She's a pirate," Ziyao shouted. "So what?" asked Shi Yan deliberately. "The pirates of the land of God punishment are the nails stuck in the flesh of the three big forces. They are my enemies. If you stay with her, you're on the opposite side to us," said Ziyao angrily. "So what?" asked Shi Yan. Ziyao took a deep breath, beaming a forced smile, but she didn't say anything. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. A magical electric-magnetic field suddenly expanded from the corner of his eye. "Who's that?" Carthu's voice came from a stone room nearby. The wind gusted and a silver silhouette appeared. "Sir Carthu, long time no see," Shiryen bent his body slightly. Carthu nodded. His face was solemn while the wind swirled around him. Boom boom. The stone gate at the back of the garden blew off. A group of about 10 people got in one by one. Leading them was a bulky man with an aquiline nose and deep eye sockets. He looked sinister, haughty, and unruly. Alchemist Allard and Byro appeared behind him. They were all astounded to see Shiryen. They assessed him discreetly. Shiryen was also surprised. He became vigilant, preparing for a sudden battle. Baitian! Carthu and Xiao screamed in fright. They changed their visages instantly. Baitian was a tough character in the Underworld League. He was second to one person, but was greater than tens of thousands of people. He had the second sky of Original God Realm, one level higher than Carthu. His family held intimidating powers with several life stars. He commanded a team that had as many hotshots as clouds in the sky. Baitian's position in the Underworld League could be compared to Leona's and Aogu duos in the Dark Firmament Divine Nation. They were all tyrant characters whose names could break the dome of heaven of the Raging Flames star area. Carthu, do I look weird? Baitian wore an indifferent face, walking as if he didn't care about anyone else. You guys are plotting about the star map, and I wish to join in on this matter. We have the same goal. If you can get here, I can too. You're quick enough. Carthu was surprised, but he gathered himself quickly. He nodded. If we have the same goal, why do you come here? You want to join hands with me to steal the star map in Fonka's hands? Baitian beamed a dry smile, shaking his head. I have the same realm as Fonko. It's not easy to defeat him. You have only the first sky of Original God Realm, so you can't be of much help. Anyway, you, Russell, and Jie Nong have the same realm. So, I'm not here to cooperate with you. Oh, if I have to find someone to cooperate, I will be more interested in Leona. Obviously, he implied that Carthu wasn't as strong as Leona. Carthu wasn't enraged. He just smiled. I'm weaker compared to Madame Leona. Yeah, if you aren't here to seek cooperation, so why are you here? Because of him. Baitian pointed to Shiryen. His face became solemn as he said, You are Shiryen, right? You and my Underworld League have business. But my little daughter didn't treat you nicely. She was a little bit harsh to you. On behalf of her, I want to apologize. After pausing for a while, Baitian turned and glared at Byro, giving her a low shout. Little Ro. Byro's graceful face distorted as if she didn't want to do it. She had struggled in her mind for a while, then bent her delicate waist, saying desperately to Shiryen, I'm so sorry for offending you that year. My apologies. Shiryen, little brother. Forgive us, forgive us. Alchemist Allard clasped his fist, his face smiling. Carthu was stunned. Xiao was baffled. Shiryen didn't understand what was going on. Baitian, what are you doing? Carthu pondered for a moment, then asked in a confused manner. Cough, cough. Baitian gave a dry cough, taking a deep breath. He looked at Shiryen, talking to him solemnly, little brother. What do you think about my daughter's appearance? Shiryen, Carthu, and Xiao were perplexed. Byro's white neck reddened. She looked at Shiryen embarrassedly. Her bright eyes were filled with anger and embarrassment. She's nice. Her face is beautiful and graceful too. Baitian stretched his mouth into a smile, flinging his arm. Then it's good. I want to let my daughter marry you. What do you think? Byro's bright eyes looked like she was about to fire, shaking her head continually behind Baitian. She signaled him not to agree. She almost screamed. Carthu and Xiao shivered, looking at Baitian with disbelieving faces. They didn't know what to say. My daughter is mesmerizingly beautiful. I'm Baitian, the great commander of the Underworld League. In any aspect, my status is better than Fengke's, right? Marrying my daughter will bring you fewer troubles than marrying a pirate. What do you think? Baitian smiled. He contemplated for a while and then added, of course, Princess Xiao is more beautiful and noble, but I think Du Tianji won't be as generous as I am. He won't allow his princess to marry you. So I think my option is more suitable for you. Don't you think so? Carthu, Shiryen, and Xiao gawked perplexedly. Even some warriors standing behind Baitian gave odd looks. Byro stood behind Baitian, continually shaking her head. She was so worried, trying to signal him to reject her father's proposal. It seemed like she had someone else in her heart, and she didn't want to become someone who can conveniently recruit strong experts for her father. Shi Yan was astounded for a while. He quietly looked at Bai Tian, then turned to Bai Rou. He took a deep breath. Why? Why did you choose me? Although your realm isn't enough to be noticed, it doesn't mean you will stay that way. I believe that if you can survive, you will become an overlord of a region in the Raging Flames Star area. Bai Tian answered frankly. I will take this bet on your future. Carthu was shaken. His eyes brightened up all of a sudden as he shouted, Bai Tian, you're so tricky. I can't deny that I admire your cunning mind. You're worthy to be the hero of your land. You do have imposing manners. Ziyao finally reacted and her soft body shivered. Bai Tian was about to make a big bet. He wanted to use his daughter's lifetime worth of happiness and his mighty force to bet on Shi Yan's future. He strongly believed that Shi Yan would become the most outstanding character in the Raging Flames Star area. Thus, he decided that he should persuade and recruit him for his team. He didn't even regret using his daughter because he thought that his bold vision was correct. Shi Yan would become a great overlord in the future. His resolute deeds and imposing manners were terrifying indeed. At this moment, Carthu and Ziyao understood this course of action. And because they understood it, they felt a chill in their hearts caused by Bai Tian's endeavors. If you marry my daughter, you will belong to my force. I can use all the available cultivating materials to tile your path. I can provide you with whatever you want, said Bai Tian seriously. With your natural endowment, I think you can break to the original god realm very quickly. I believe that you don't need 200 years to gain a slot in the Raging Flame Star area. I don't know if someone else favors you like I do, but I believe that I have the most sincere proposal. What do you say? Can you give me more time to think? Shi Yan suddenly said. From the other side, Bai Rou was still watching him with sharp eyes, trying to signal him to reject her father. Hearing him, her soft body shook as deep embarrassment and resentment sparkled in her eyes. She looked like a tigress about to bare its fangs and tear Shi Yan's throat. Bai Tian gazed at him for a while. He grinned and nodded. All right, I'll give you time to think about it. All right, we won't disturb you anymore. Bai Tian said to Carthu and Ziyao before turning around and leaving. His warriors followed him silently. During Bai Tian's entire proposal, no one in his delegation had uttered a word. Only Bai Rou lagged behind. Waiting until her father disappeared, she craned her neck behind the stone gate, rolling her eyes at Shi Yan indignantly. She said through her gritted teeth, "Don't dream about his offer. Even if I die, I won't marry you." Then, her graceful body disappeared. At the same time, Feng Rao called for him. Because it took him so long time, Feng Rao got uneasy and came to look for him. Chapter 832. The Mark Reappears. Chapter 832. The Mark Reappears. Feng Rao screamed anxiously. Shi Yan didn't linger with Ziyao. He hurried to leave and disappeared shortly. Bai Tian's delegation left. Ao Gera, Yalan, and Taimu weren't arranged to stay in this manor house. Thus, only Ziyao and Carthu stayed in this garden. After Bai Tian and Shi Yan had left, Carthu and Ziyao stayed quiet for a long time. They all had devastated looks on their faces. Long after that, Carthu sighed. Bai Tian has guts. He is tough and bold to make such an offer. Ziyao frowned, saying nothing. Using his daughter's lifetime's worth of happiness to bet on Shi Yan's future, if he wins this bet, he will be rewarded immensely. I can tell you that. Carthu took a deep breath then said, with his potential, 200 years is enough time for him to become an outstanding hero of the Raging Flame Star area. He could even surpass Bai Tian. If he marries Bai Rou, Bai Tian will put in all of his resources to nurture him. He will grow even faster. So cunning. Bai Tian is very cunning. Ziyao looked bitter, sighing lightly. She had known Shi Yan for a long time. She knew his potential clearer than anyone else. When they were in the solar star exploding fragment field, Shi Yan had only the true god realm cultivation base. It was shorter than 10 years before he reached the second sky of King God Realm. Ziya was at the third sky of King God Realm for a long time. However, her realm remained the same while Shuryen continued to progress. He had just defeated the Demon Clan's expert Black Horn, a guy cultivating ice power Upanishad. Ziya wondered if she could defeat Black Horn, and she was sure she could not. It meant that Shuryen had the capabilities to fight her with his own powers and without using external forces. It hasn't been very long. Thinking about all this gave Ziya a headache. Aogera has Aogu Duo to back him up. Anyway, without this, he isn't as strong as Shuryen. Karthu took a deep breath, his face solemn. Don't give up. If you miss this chance, you will regret it for the rest of your life. Ziya frowned, asking, Uncle Karthu, what do you mean? You know what I'm talking about. I just want to remind you that Shuryen is no longer an average guy anymore. Bai Tian has shown up because of him. Feng Ku will also try his best to recruit him. If you don't secure him, you will lose him forever. Manage it yourself. Karthu sighed, shaking his head. Let's go. Aogera and Yalan have been waiting for us for a long time. You should think about it on the way. Oh, right. Aogu Duo is about to arrive. But Leona will come too. Keep thinking about what you want your relationship with Shuryen to be. Ziya furrowed her brows and remained silent. She quietly followed Karthu, her face absent-minded. On the lively streets, Shuryen and Feng Rao were walking shoulder by shoulder. They smiled from time to time. They seemed to be very happy. Look, that shop sells a lot of strange and bizarre items. Things we can't find in the Raging Flame Star area. Feng Rao's eyes brightened as she pointed at a shop by the street. She bloomed her smile as if she was excited, turning to look at Shuryen. If you need to use the bathroom, I can wait for you, but you need to hurry. Feng Rao was hiding something in her words. Her beautiful eyes sparkled. Staying in the Purgatory Star to retrieve the star map proved her patience and subtlety. She was definitely not a fool. In fact, Feng Rao was meticulous and clear-headed. The time Shuryen disappeared to do his small business was more than she needed. Connecting it to other abnormal things that happened before, Feng Rao knew that he had gone to meet someone. Being a smart woman, Feng Rao didn't expose this or ask him questions. She chose to pretend to not know anything. Anyway, it didn't mean that she wouldn't care. That was why she took the chance to tease Shuryen. Nah, I'm done. I'm clean now. Shuryen smiled embarrassedly. He didn't wait for Feng Rao to say more, heading towards that shop. They were both smart people. There were things they didn't need to say out loud to understand it. This shop was around 1,000 square meters with some square counters that displayed many types of crystals, ores, unknown grass, herbs, and flowers. They even found many pieces of precious leather with natural patterns, beast skeletons, and strange books. Just like a grocery shop, the counters were packed with items. Many of them were strange and unknown. Even Feng Rao didn't know what some of them were. The strange energy fluctuated and rose from some stones, crystals, and beast skeleton, but it wasn't strong or strange. A white-headed old senile woman dozed off on her chair. Her head stooped and nodded from time to time. She seemed to not recognize that she had some customers checking out her shop. The old woman didn't have a high realm. She just got the third sky of True God realm. It seemed like she was stuck in this realm for many years. And since she couldn't break through, she looked old. She seemed to count her life on the shop with the hope to enter the King God realm. The Raging Flame Star area was vast. People could easily meet King God realm warriors and sometimes original God realm warriors. However, not all true God realm warriors could break through to the King God realm. Compared to the thousands of billion people in the Raging Flame Star area, the King God realm warriors were rare. Many remained stuck in the True God realm for the rest of their lives. This woman was one of them. She stooped and slept tight as if she didn't care whether or not someone planned to steal her items or not. She is the oldest woman in our land of God punishment. I think she is several thousand years old. So many years ago, her man was the strongest leader of the pirates in the land of God punishment. I heard that he had robbed the ships near the border of the Raging Flame Star area and claimed abundant harvests. However, he had disappeared a couple of thousand years. I think he is dead. And she is still in the land of God punishment to sell goods that he had robbed. I heard that her shop has something we can't find in the Raging Flame Star area. Of course, the valuable items were all sold out. What we see here are the leftover items after people have finished selecting and buying. Just normal and useless stuff. Feng Rao explained when they got into the shop. We can just watch. We don't have to buy anything. This shop has something the Raging Flame Star area doesn't have. So did anyone buy something good here? Asked Shiryan. Yes, rumors say that some people had bought the priceless items here. Feng Rao nodded. Of course, it is just a rumor. We haven't seen anything yet. She's been here when my father was just a little pirate. This legend has been told even before that. I heard it from my father. I'm not sure whether it is true or not. Shiryan was surprised, but he didn't pay much attention. Instead, he just walked around and checked things out. He found many stones and crystals that he didn't even know the name of. Many of the objects didn't have energy fluctuations, so he didn't know what they could be used for. Also, he couldn't tell what kind of beasts those skeletons were because they had been there for quite a long time. He couldn't tell the level or class of those skeletons either. It was hard to tell their values. And he found many small and peculiar toys, which also didn't have a beam of aura or energy. This shop had hundreds of items piled on the counters. Most of them didn't have energy. If they did, their energy was so feeble, which didn't make them worth much. Shiryan didn't have any purpose in looking for valuable things here. He was simply curious, wanting to see how the items of the other star area look like. He just went back and forth between the counters to observe the items, releasing his soul consciousness to sense. A fist-sized dim blue stone orb, which didn't have a beam of energy, caught Shiryan's attention. It was heavier than it looked. This dim blue stone orb looked ordinary. It had no feature that was unusual. It didn't have the natural texture of stone either. However, when Shiryan sent his soul consciousness into the orb, his star power Upanishad reflected a weak beam of energy fluctuation. This stone orb seemed to have some tiny but magical relation to his star power. Shiryan was amazed. He quietly picked the dim blue stone orb, put it on the counter, and nodded to Feng Rao. I want this stone orb. He didn't hasten to use his star power Upanishad to sense the mysteries of the stone orb. This place was someone's shop, so it was not convenient. If this orb had something magical and someone else besides him got it, he would have had to pay a big price to get the orb. Okay, continue to see if you want to buy anything else. Feng Rao glared at the stone orb, then shifted her eyes away. She didn't pay much attention to his item. Just like Shiryan, she crouched to find some toys for herself. Shiryan continued to rummage through the piles of miscellaneous items under the counter. Those things were strange, but because they didn't have any energy, Shiryan couldn't use his soul consciousness to check them. Soon, he walked to another pile of miscellaneous goods. A small, cold shield suddenly fell into his palm. This one was a pocket edition. It was as big as a human face. It looked exquisite and even lovely. This small shield was blue and brown. It felt cold and smooth in his hand. Shiryan's soul consciousness sank into it. No energy was reported. The backside of the shield didn't have any pattern or carved formation. Shiryan just skimmed through it. He threw it away, not paying much attention. Clink clink. The small shield created some sounds in the pile of assorted items. Shiryan looked at it and his face stiffened immediately. On a side of the blue-brown shield showed a mark of 5 blood-red clouds. It was the exact same image as the mark on his god soul's forehead. Shiryan was startled. He became solemn because when he had just checked the shield, he hadn't seen any mark on either side of the smooth shield. However, after he had rubbed it and thrown it away, the mark appeared. What was going on? Was it because of him? Shiryan inhaled, making himself clear-minded. He resumed his normal countenance and picked up the small shield. The mark of 5 blood clouds on the shield faded away when he looked again. However, the shield became colder. Shiryan was skeptical and perplexed at the same time. He took the small shield, placing it next to the stone orb and nodding to Feng Rao. I also want this. Boy, I'm sorry. We don't sell that small shield, the old woman said in a sleepy voice. The old woman had just woken up. Shiryan was astounded. Chapter 833, Fei Lan. Chapter 833, Fei Lan, _ The old woman was still sleepy. She bent her body slightly, then opened her eyes. Her opaque eyes had no light in them. She looked quiet and senile. She had been stuck in the true god realm for many years. She couldn't pass through the king god realm. She seemed to be numb to this fact, losing her faith in her ability to increase her realm. For the rest of her life, she took care of this small shop, waiting for something to happen. People said that she was waiting for her husband, the strongest pirate of the land of God punishment many years ago. He had disappeared near the border of the Raging Flame Star area. Several thousand years ago, that man used to be like Feng Ke, a leader of the pirates in the land of God punishment, whose fame matched his competence. However, he was much stronger than Feng Ke with a more profound realm. His operating area wasn't bound by the Raging Flame Star area. He had stretched his influence to the peripheral areas of the star area. He had often visited the area where ships from other star areas passed by. Perhaps because of his guts and his marvelous powers, he became arrogant, which led to unexpected events. He could never come home from the edge of the Raging Flame Star area. It has been so many years. Many new pirate leaders had risen, including Feng Ke. However, none of them had the force and capability that could be compared to that man. The shop owner, the quiet, senile woman, was the only wife of that man. She stayed in the Heaven Punishment City and sold goods her husband had harvested. Initially, this shop was famous and packed with goods and customers. Since the man had disappeared, it gradually quieted down. Now, the shop was still famous, but it couldn't sell many things. Not many people visited here anymore. People seemed to have forgotten this shop. Feng Rao stopped rummaging through the stuff. She frowned, asking with surprise, "Granny Fei Lan, why do you not want to sell it?" People called the old woman Fei Lan. Only the powerful characters in the Heaven Punishment City knew her real name. "That small shield is a gift my husband gave to me. It is nothing special, but it is a good memento." Fei Lan remembered something, her eyes showing her affection like a vast sea. "When he gets tired and comes home, if he finds out that I've lost his gift, he won't feel comfortable." Feng Rao's bright eyes showed that she was moved by the old woman's love. Shi Yan was astounded, looking at Fei Lan with some affection. In their eyes, Fei Lan was a fool who quietly waited in sorrow for a man who had disappeared several thousand years ago in Heaven Punishment City. After so many years, she still loved and longed for him. She even thought that her husband was still alive and that he might come home one day. Although this deep love sounded conservative and foolish, it could touch anybody's heart. Feng Rao was deeply moved. "Then forget it. It's okay that you don't want to sell it. How about this stone orb? Will you sell it?" The dim blue stone orb was revealed as she opened her white palm. This orb didn't have a beam of energy. In any aspect, it looked like a rare-shaped stone. Nothing in this orb was special enough to make people look at it for more than several seconds. Fei Lan's cloudy eyes observed the dim blue stone orb. She didn't say anything for a moment. "Granny Fei Lan, you don't want to sell this broken ball either?" Feng Rao was surprised. She started to feel strange. It wasn't the first time Feng Rao visited this shop. Before she had left the Heaven Punishment City, she often wandered here. Usually, toys and trash items in the shop were really cheap. Before today, she had never known that this shop had something that the old woman wouldn't sell. However, Shi Yan had chosen a small shield and Fei Lan said that she didn't want to sell it. And now, she was hesitant in selling this broken stone ball, which made Feng Rao confused. "Ma'am, if you don't want to sell it, it's all right," said Shi Yan with a natural look on his face. His eyes still gazed at the stone orb and the small, strange shield. Fei Lan rubbed her eyes, shaking her head. She sighed then mumbled, "Take the stone orb. I have to survive anyway. I still have to eat. How many divine crystals do you want?" Feng Rao said, taking out some top-quality divine crystals from her fantasy sky ring. In her eyes, that broken stone wasn't worth a top-quality divine crystal. But if Shi Yan liked it, it was worth the price. She intended to give her 10 top-quality divine crystals as she felt sorry for the old woman. Give me the quantity that you think my item is worth. Fei Lan pondered for a while, then lifted her head. However, she didn't look at Feng Rao but instead at Shi Yan. Feng Rao was astounded. Shi Yan's eyebrows slightly twitched. He kept silent. After more than 10 seconds, Shi Yan's brows stretched. He took a deep breath, then turned to Feng Rao. How many divine crystals did your father give you? 1,000. They're all top quality. Feng Rao felt odd. Give her all of it. Shi Yan lowered his voice. Feng Rao's soft body shivered. Her bright eyes were skeptical and she was very confused. It was just a rare-shaped stone ball. In her eyes, it wasn't worth a coin. The energy of a top-quality divine crystal was enough to refill the energy of a king-god realm warrior. A top-grade divine crystal could buy sacred-grade pellets, a charming maid, or rent the training yard for half a month in the Heaven Punishment City. 1,000 divine crystals was a big fortune indeed. In the Heaven Punishment City, only pirates with a strong background force could keep such properties. To recruit Shi Yan, Feng Ke had used his foundation capital. Giving away 1,000 divine crystals, he sure was generous. As Feng Rao knew the value of the divine crystal, she was hesitant and suspicious. Give it to her, Shi Yan frowned, repeating his words. Feng Rao didn't hesitate anymore. She slipped the fantasy sky ring off her finger, slowly put it on the counter. She was kind enough to remind the old woman, Granny Fei Lan, this fantasy sky ring keeps 1,000 divine crystals of top quality. Keep it well. Don't show others that you have such a big fortune. If someone else laid eyes on this huge fortune, Fei Lan could fall into trouble because of her true god realm cultivation base. That's why Feng Rao had to remind her. Fei Lan appeared to not listen to her reminder. Her dull eyes were still gazing at Shi Yan. After a long moment, she nodded, handing over the dim blue stone orb, pushing it toward Shi Yan. It belongs to you now. Pausing for a while, she mumbled, it suits you anyway. Thank you, Shi Yan smiled, respectfully put the dim blue stone orb away. He bowed to greet her, then turned to Feng Rao. Let's go, we shouldn't disturb her more. Although Feng Rao was curious, she just nodded and said nothing more, following him to leave the shop. Fei Lan's line of sight was fixed on Shi Yan from the moment he entered until the moment he left the shop. She pondered for a while, then dozed off again. Why? After they had left the shop, Feng Rao couldn't hold her curiosity anymore. She asked, her eyes confused, 1,000 divine crystals. That is enough to buy a spacious manor in the Heaven Punishment City. Exchanging such a fortune for a trash stone, was it worth it? I wasn't sure if it was worth it or not, smiled Shi Yan. But seeing her hesitate, I think, perhaps I've picked a treasure. She didn't want to sell the orb because she knew its value. When you gave her 1,000 divine crystals, I didn't see her get excited. She looked begrudging, though. Do you know why? Why? Because she thought that it was too few. Few? She thought that 1,000 divine crystals were not enough. I think that she considered our payment small. Otherwise, she would have stirred up. She even looked begrudging. Anyway, she doesn't need that orb. That is why she sold it to me. Perhaps she has another reason. Shi Yan wasn't so sure. He vaguely felt that Fei Lan should know the magic of that small shield. She might know about the blood mark too. The reason why Fei Lan agreed to sell the stone orb was possibly related to the fact that he could recognize the value of the small shield. Of course, all of these were just his assumptions. Shi Yan didn't dare confirm, but he had some strange premonitions. Feng Rao wasn't a fool. She was skeptical because she couldn't see what magic the stone ball could do. She thought it was just a trash stone. However, after Shi Yan had explained, she understood immediately. She felt a little bit shocked. You meant, that stone orb has something strange. It has a subtle connection with my star power Upanishad. I can say that it's not just a normal item. I think that it's worth the price of 1,000 divine crystals, and it could be more than that, Shi Yan said, after contemplating for a while. Feng Rao's eyes brightened up. You mean, Granny Fei Lan knows how valuable the orb is? I think she knows, nodded Shi Yan. But she is only the true god realm cultivation base. If she knows, why doesn't she tell people about the stone and give it a higher price? You should ask her. I can't think of an answer. They were discussing in a low tone. Gradually, they walked into a desolate alley where they saw no one on the street. Shiyan halted. Feng Rao stopped next to him. The wind ceased. A heavy pressure slowly pressed down from all directions. It felt like a wind wall was pressing down to restrain people. Wind power Upanishad. Shiyan and Feng Rao exchanged looks. They became solemn, quietly gathering energy in their bodies. From the strange pressing wind, they knew that the incomer had a strong realm. He should be a warrior at the original god realm. Shiyan's negative energy burst out instantly. His god body appeared, his eyes turning garnet. The negative aura rolled like a windstorm. Shiyan's dead domain expanded, tearing off the pressure from the wind. Feng Rao didn't say anything. She sat down, closing her eyes to sense the commotion of the wind. She mouthed, using her sound power Upanishad to disorder the threatening force from the opponent's god domain. The incomer had the original god realm and used wind power. He had prepared well with his intimidating power. If they made a mistake, they would be consigned to eternal damnation. Their soul altars could be smashed, too. Both Shiyan and Feng Rao were experienced warriors. When they noticed that something was wrong, they immediately gathered all their forces to resist. They didn't dare linger for even a moment. While they were ready to encounter the opponent, a gust of wind shot over from one end of the alley and covered one of them. Chapter 834. The Frightful Invisible Hand. Chapter 834. The Frightful Invisible Hand. The wind blew over like a dust tornado. A gray shadow was suspended in the middle of the tornado, but they couldn't see it clearly. They could only feel a powerful but evil force gushing from him. The gray wind hissed. The massive pressure increased several times all of a sudden. Instantly, the rock walls of this small alley cracked and exploded. Chips of rock shattered like an intense shower. The wind howled ear-piercingly, running directly into Shiyan's sea of consciousness like a sharp blade. Shiyan could feel pain from the god domain. At this moment, he couldn't even gather his consciousness. His thoughts couldn't be sent to the soul altar. His god's soul floated as if it was drawn out of the soul altar above the sea of consciousness. In the wind howl, the immense pressure compressed the air. The smell of burning objects invaded the air. Rocks fell like rain. With energy given by the wind, those chips became as heavy as mountains or 10,000 cattle and as thick like the sea. Inside the wind god domain, gusts screamed, making everything blurred. The whole sky became an immense gray area. It looked like the mighty heaven was about to rip off everything. Confine! Shiyan screamed almost crazily. His voice struck the high sky, his face ferocious. Countless space ripples expanded from his god body, raising like the tide of the sea. Shortly, they formed a formation. The sounds of crack echoed in the air like someone was using invisible chains to lash the surroundings. Even the voice couldn't be sent through. Feng Rao sat neatly next to Shiyan with closed eyes. Her visage was tranquil like water, but her delicate curved eyebrows furrowed. Her lips parted as she spurted out syllables as sharp as swords. They then fiercely shot towards the blurry shadow in the middle of the gray tornado. Boom, boom, boom. Grumbling sounds echoed continually. Feng Rao used her sound power Upanishad to bombard that tornado. A big part of the gray dust vanished. However, the wind had just halted for a while before starting to revolve fast again. The furious wind rolled, sweeping through everywhere and cleaning each square inch around the man. As Shiyan had just gathered his energy to condense the god domain and space confinement, his attack was immediately torn apart by the gust of wind. The tornadoes that naked eyes could see rolling in the sky like the axes flew towards them from every direction. The grating, ear-piercing hell brought the energy that nothing could destroy, moving very quickly. The stone tiles on the ground of the small alley rolled up into the sky. The tornado then ground them into dust. The walls exploded and shattered. The tornadoes covered everything as if they wanted to smash all creatures in the area. Feng Rao closed her eyes, frowning while both of her hands made hand seals. She was screaming and shouting unceasingly. Her sound seals exploded, then condensed into lightning ribbons, stabbing the gray tornado. However, they couldn't get through the thick tornado, and she couldn't harm the one hovering inside. A gap between two realms was the distance between humans and gods. This distance couldn't be made up by simply using energy. They couldn't attack the other's god domain or find a weak spot to attack. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The three bone thorns appeared in the tornado, trying to attack that shadow. Wind blades appeared in the void like a sea of sharp sabers. The three bone thorns could only break some wind blades, but not the person controlling the winds. Boom! Just like the grumbling thunder pressing down, the intimidating invisible wind ropes sprang forward. Shortly after, Shiryan and Feng Rao were tied tightly. They couldn't even wiggle. The thumb-sized gray wind ropes slowly revealed themselves, lashing around the two like securing the leaf rice rolls. The fierce screaming of the wind suddenly stopped. The vague figure in the tornado slowly emerged. Fan Yi! Feng Rao couldn't hold in her shouting. You dare come to the Heaven Punishment City? Do you really think that the Heaven Punishment City is a desolate place? That man was Fan Yi from the Nice Star Chamber of Commerce, a warrior at the first sky of Original God Realm. He had fought Russell in the past, but he was defeated. This wasn't too long time ago, but he dared to visit the Heaven Punishment City. Now, he wanted to capture Shiryan and Feng Rao. This man was brave enough to break the rules of the Heaven Punishment City. What do your Heaven Punishment City's rules have to do with me? Fan Ye's visage was cold and harsh. He said with disdain, We, the Nice Star Chamber of Commerce, always wanted to clean up the Heaven Punishment City. You are the dirty scumbags of the Star area. You will be eradicated one day. To me, Heaven Punishment City is a city to be destroyed soon. Why should I follow their rules? Among the three big forces in the Raging Flame Star area, the Nice Star Chamber of Commerce had the greatest resentment towards the land of God punishment. They always wanted to sweep up the pirates. The Nice Star Chamber of Commerce was the biggest chamber of commerce in the Raging Flame Star area with strong forces and large business deals. The pirates of the land of God punishment were their archenemies. Those pirates often robbed the Nice Star Chamber of Commerce's vessels and sold their stolen goods in the Heaven Punishment City, which resulted in tremendous damage to their profits. If the land of God punishment hadn't had so many hiding spots that the soul consciousness could sense, the Nice Star Chamber of Commerce would have already attempted to clean this massive base of pirates. You're attacking two juniors like us. Do you think you're that good? If you have the guts, you should find Russell to take revenge. He's in the city, said Feng Rao with rage. I will. Russell won't escape his death. He must die. No doubt about it. Fan Yi beamed a faint smile. But you two have your own value. Where's the empty fantasy crystal? The empty fantasy crystal is a precious item. We had spent a lot to buy it. We can't afford to let a kid steal it. Pausing for a while, Fan Yi glared at Feng Rao. I heard that Feng cherishes you so much. I wonder if he will use the star map to exchange it for your life. I will give Feng time to consider. When time's up and he doesn't want to exchange the star map for you, don't blame me. While talking, Fan Yi stepped toward Shiryan and Feng Rao. Swoosh! A gust swept through. A cut suddenly appeared on Shiryan's neck, just a line away from his artery. A wind blade appeared between Fan Yi's fingers. He said coldly, I want to know where the empty fantasy crystal is. Shiryan's eyes were garnet. He looked at Fan Yi, parting his lips. I broke it. Fan Yi changed his face. The wind blade between his fingers flew out to cut the artery on his neck. Boom! Just like a collapsing mountain, a ruthless force shot out from Shiryan's body like an erupting volcano. The ash-gray ropes were broken instantly. Shiryan had urged the power of immortal demon blood in his body. At this moment, Shiryan became a wild beast that was breaking out of its confinement. His momentum was furious and intimidating. Light sparkled in his garnet eyes. The dead Upanishad was urged. Negative energy turned into a massive dead seal striking towards Fan Yi. The dead seal was like a giant bloody hand of death. The pungent, thick smell of blood it brought seemed to not disperse easily. It looked like a palm that could smash the whole dome of the sky. The ferocious, formidable energy gushed out together with negative emotions. They affected Fan Yi's soul altar before he could attack Shiryan. Then, Fanny had a hallucination of himself standing in a blood sea. His face became sinister as his murderous aura vented out furiously. Bang! The sky-towering tornado appeared, impacting the dead seal that looked like the Death's giant hand. The earth and heaven were shaken. The earth-shattering energy had smashed Fanya's barrier into pieces. Beams of energy shelled everywhere else. The tall buildings of more than 100 meters around them exploded by the shockwaves. Many warriors were hurt. Fanny was still hovering in the air, but he was trembling hard. His face turned into an unhealthy red hue. Shuryen had condensed his immortal demon blood to create the dead seal, which had the mountain-splitting power. Fanny got hit. His barrier created by his god domain was shattered. At the moment the barrier was torn, Fanny knew that the experts of the Heaven Punishment City would come quickly, as they must have found the tremendous commotion of this battle. It was impossible to confine Shuryen to ask for the empty fantasy crystal's whereabouts. This was also true for capturing Feng Rao to ask Feng Ku about the star map. Shuryen panted, his face savage like an enraged beast that was smelling the scent of blood. Bloodlight sparkly gloriously in his garnet eyes. The immortal demon blood boiled in his body, generating the endless energy, which screamed to get out. Negative energy in his acupuncture points overflowed torrentially, combining perfectly with the god domain generated by the dead power Upanishad. As the dead power was moving in his soul altar, a blood sea vaguely appeared by his body. The thick scent of blood permeated the sky, covering every creature. The ability to suck the vitality from creatures arose silently. While he didn't recognize it, light dots emerged from Fanya's body, slowly flying toward Shuryen's god body in the center of the god domain. Break! Shuryen took a deep breath. His congested arms tore forcefully, ripping off the wind ropes on Feng Rao's body, releasing her from Fanya's wind confinement. Seems like I will have to kill you all. Fanya considered for a few seconds before his face turned dark. He wanted to use his realm advantage to kill Shuryen and Feng Rao. Since he had the original God Realm cultivation vase, he hadn't used all of his power in this battle yet. As he confirmed that he couldn't capture Shuryen and Feng Rao, he was enraged. He decided to kill them all. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The wind rose again. The tornado that could tear the sky formed near Fanny. At this moment, Fanny seemed to turn into a massive tornado, covering the entire area. His formidable wind power moved furiously. It was several times stronger than the previous ones. Fanny continually urged his energy as he wanted to kill them all. However, right when he wanted to open his mouth to announce Shuryen and Feng Rao's death sentence, he discolored. Both of his hands clutched his neck. His eyes showed extreme fear. His god body was sliding backward rapidly and eccentrically, breaking more than 10 stone buildings. However, he was still being dragged away. It seemed like there was an invisible hand strangling him and dragging him into the void. Fanny couldn't do anything. His wind energy scattered fast. Fanny had the first sky of original God Realm. But under that force, he looked like a dead dog that was unable to wiggle. Shuryen and Feng Rao were shocked to see Fanny get dragged further away until they couldn't see him anymore. Let's go. Feng Rao cleared her mind, shouting. She held his hand, dashing crazily towards the blue demon's base. Shuryen staggered and flew after her. However, after being baffled for a while, he turned around to look at the general direction of Fei Lan's shop with a complex countenance. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.